Chapter 5000. A violent rumble resounded between heaven and earth as the hell-fire tornado roared. Wow, you blocked it! How did you do that? He stared fixedly at the black jar. On the other side, the demonic man's face was filled with fear and disbelief. How could I block it? He knew the power of the shroud better than anyone else. Even Luo Sha frowned at the sight. He also stared at the black jar. Is it the Great Emperor's weapon? In his opinion, the shroud was related to the Great Emperor. The only thing that could block his attack was a weapon related to the Great Emperor. That was the Great Emperor's weapon. His opponent was from the Great Emperor clan. Who are you? Rakshasa asked coldly. Who am I? You don't need to know. Hand over the portrait of Ksitigarbha. Lin Xian held the heaven-swallowing jar and said coldly. Rakshasa also snorted coldly. Humph, so what if you have a Great Emperor's weapon? With your strength, the power you can unleash is at most on par with mine. Is that so? Let's see who will be in despair later. Lin Xian roared, and the heaven-swallowing jar emitted a terrifying light. A black vortex covered the sky and swallowed the shroud, trying to swallow it. The shroud actually emitted a chaotic aura to block it. The two super weapons clashed, and the sky collapsed. The demonic man was sent flying, his face filled with fear. The place was completely shattered. The hellfire dragon's sword also roared crazily. Damn, a Great Emperor's weapon. You actually have a Great Emperor's weapon? He felt like he was going crazy. Rakshasa's face was cold. He said, it's useless. We'll draw at most. In his opinion, the Great Emperor's weapon was already his strongest trump card. However, Lin Xian said, draw? Are you sure? His body swayed, and he charged over. Rakshasa waved his hand, and a shield appeared in his hand. It's useless. I can still block your sword. The hellfire dragon's sword hit the jade shield, and a deafening sound was heard. However, the shield did not shatter. His opponent blocked it. However, Lin Xian's trump card was not the hellfire dragon sword. He summoned the great dragon sword soul and slashed out, causing the jade shield to shake violently. The light dimmed, and cracks appeared on its surface. How could this be? This time, Rakshasa's expression changed. He stared at the sword shadow. Damn it, how could you have such a weapon? He was really crazy. Could it be that the other party had two extreme weapons? He had never heard of anyone who was so heaven-defying. He swung his sword again. This time, one of Luo Sha's arms was chopped off, and half of his body was shattered. He spat out a mouthful of blood as he flew back, his expression extremely ugly. The bewitching man in the distance was in despair. Was Luo Sha going to be defeated? Moreover, it was very likely that failure meant death. The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up. The next sword strike would take his opponent's life. However, at that moment, the Rakshasa roared and the shroud that was fighting against the heaven-devouring jar in the sky instantly rushed back. They surrounded him. He gritted his teeth and said, Brat, I didn't expect you to be able to make me reach this step. However, I won't let you succeed. As he spoke, he formed a seal with his palms, and countless mysterious runes appeared around him. Then, the shroud covered him tightly. No! The bewitching man in the distance saw this scene and roared crazily. His eyes were filled with despair. It was obvious that the Rakshasa had to pay a huge price to use such an ultimate technique. Lin Xian also frowned. A cold wind blew between heaven and earth. He wanted to make a move, but a very terrifying barrier appeared and blocked him. In the next moment, the Rakshasa in the shroud raised his head. Lin Xian could no longer see him. He could only see a pair of eyes. At a glance, his scalp went numb and his body turned cold. What kind of eyes were those? They were emotionless. Lin Xian now suspected that this was not Rakshasa at all. The other party was already dead. He did not know what kind of existence this was. The shroud had an extremely strange power. Whoosh! The figure that was shrouded in the shroud rushed over and reached out with a hand. He charged over. Lin Xian was shocked. Previously, the Rakshasa's hand was also as white as jade, but now it was rotten. White bones could be seen in many places on it. However, its power was comparable to divine iron. It directly tore through the void and grabbed towards his throat and heart. Lin Xian slashed out with his sword. The fire dragon's sword slashed on it and released a series of flames. However, it was not cut off. At the critical moment, he used the shadowless heaven's net movement technique to dodge quickly. Only then did he manage to dodge the attack. Then, her face darkened. It seemed like she could only use her full strength. After all, to use the great dragon sword soul at full strength would consume too much energy. However, there was no other way now. Fortunately, since last time, the sword world had recovered a bit of strength. It was enough for Lin Xian to use 2 swords. He had to get rid of the other party within 2 swords. Thinking of this, Lin Xian held the great dragon sword soul and slashed down with both hands. Roar! A dragon's roar sounded between heaven and earth. The power of this sword was too strong. Even though the Rakshasa had become an unknown existence, he was still sent flying. One of his hands was broken, but he still stood up. With the shroud, he seemed to have become an immortal existence. It was useless. A cold voice came out. I am now immortal and indestructible. Immortal and indestructible? Lin Xian snorted coldly. Even the great emperor was unable to escape this fate, let alone you. Pretending to be a ghost, watch me kill you. This second sword was even more terrifying. When this sword slashed down, heaven and earth continued to shatter. The entire hell seemed to have been split into 2 halves. This time, the Rakshasa's injuries were even more severe. The shroud almost flew out of his body. Half of his body was broken, and the shroud on his body had also become dim. The Rakshasa let out a frantic and uneasy cry. Lin Xian frowned. 2 swords did not kill the other party? This shroud was too strange. If he used his strength again, it would be very difficult for him to hold on. Furthermore, hell was so dangerous. Could it be that he had to return empty-handed today? Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. The Rakshasa on the other side seemed to be even more terrified. He let out a beast-like howl, then threw out a scroll from his storage ring. As for him, he fled to the other side. He ran away. Lin Xian was stunned for a moment, but he soon understood. His great dragon sword soul was an existence comparable to an extreme weapon. These 2 swords were not easy for the other party. He was even afraid that he would use the 3rd sword, so he ran away. Ignoring the shroud, Lin Xian's body flashed, and he grabbed the scroll. In the next moment, it opened, and a golden light spilled out. It was as if hell had turned into heaven. The hellfire dragon sword flew out wildly. Hang on, don't let this light near me. At this moment, the bones of the dead around hell melted quickly, as if this golden light could purify heaven and earth. It was indeed the work of Ksitigarbha. Lin Xian knew that only Ksitigarbha had such power. Great! He felt the infernal evil eye on his back twitching uneasily. It was obviously afraid of this power. With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian kept the scroll and landed. This battle could be said to be very difficult. Lin Xian used the power of the great dragon's sword, which caused his body to be in extreme pain. It seemed that he had to go back and rest well. The Rakshasa had run away, and the demonic man was already dead. In the battle between the great dragon sword soul and the shroud, the power that was released had already torn him to pieces. The demonic aura on Lin Xian's body also slowly disappeared. There was no one left. He did not need to hide anymore. It's you! However, at this moment, a cry of surprise was heard. Lin Xian's face darkened. Who is it? Come out! He stomped his foot, and a force directly shattered the ground. Then, a figure flew out from the ground. This person was holding a tortoise shell, and her face was extremely pale. She looked at Lin Xian with a face full of shock. It's you! Kid, hand it over. Lin Xian also smiled. He realized that the person hiding under the ground was not someone else, but Yin Tianfeng. Why was this guy here? Chapter 5001. You saw what happened before? Lin Xian asked coldly. That's right, kid, hand over the scroll obediently. Also, hand over all the treasures on you and I won't tell anyone. If not, when I report to San Saint Hall, you will be dead. Yin Tianfeng shouted coldly. Lin Xian laughed. You really are an idiot. If you said that you didn't see it, you might still be able to live. Do you think I will let you go now? Yin Tianfeng scoffed. Why? Don't tell me you dare to make a move on me? Don't forget that you are from Seoul and I am from San Saint Hall. My grandfather is the 5th elder of Killing Hall. He said that the power that he can control is not something that you can imagine. If you offend me, there will be no place for you in hell. Do you want to be chased by countless assassins like those people before? If you don't, kneel down and hand over the treasures. Then you can live. Lin Xian laughed when he heard that. What are you laughing at? Lin Xian said, I am laughing at your ignorance. Who told you that I have to survive in hell? I came here for this scroll. Now that I have it, I can leave hell at any time. So, what you said before can't threaten me. Damn it. Yin Tianfeng's pupils constricted. Did I think wrongly? To him, Lin Xian should be here for the inheritance of the Supreme Emperor. After all, with Lin Xian's talent, he could stay here and get the supreme technique of the Supreme Emperor. This was something that every expert wanted. However, Lin Xian didn't seem to care at all. Acting, Lin Xian must be acting. He scoffed. I don't believe that you can bear to leave. However, Lin Xian didn't reply and just attacked. With a slash, Yin Tianfeng was sent flying. His arms were chopped off and he fell into a pool of blood. He roared crazily. You dare to hurt me? Why wouldn't I dare? Lin Xian broke the man's legs with a single stomp. Aren't you high and mighty? Don't you want to fight with me? Come, I will give you a chance. Previously in the Hell Canyon, the other party was so overbearing. Lin Xian was too lazy to pay attention to it because he wanted to cultivate his physique. Now, he would let the other party know who was the true expert. Dan brat, if you have the ability, then don't use your weapon and fight me fairly. Yin Tianfeng roared crazily. To him, the opponent was only relying on the strength of his weapon. In terms of true strength, he did not fear the other party at all. All right, I will fulfill your wish. Lin Xian nodded and kept the Hellfire Dragon's sword. Come on. Yin Tianfeng stood up. A cruel smile appeared on his face as he charged forward like a bolt of lightning. Then, he continuously struck out with his palms. Heavenly Wind 10 strikes. He struck out 10 palms in a row, sweeping across the world. This was his most powerful technique. The other party didn't have any weapons, so how could he fight him? Lin Xian didn't use a weapon. Instead, he swung his fists. 6 Dao Fist. It pressed forward and collided with the other party's palm. Boom! The sky fell and the earth cracked. The palm shadows that the other party sent out were quickly shattered. After shattering 7 fists, Lin Xian's fist started to slow down. On the other hand, Yin Tianfeng was completely dumbfounded. He was continuously pushed back by this force. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. How was that possible? He was crazy. The other party didn't use any weapons, but the other party was still so strong. Could it be that the other party's strength had surpassed his? What kind of joke was this? He was someone who had killed 5 great sages all by himself. I don't believe it! Yin Tianfeng roared in rage. Shadow God Claw. His 5 fingers formed a claw that tore apart the sky. At that moment, he seemed to have turned into an ancient beast. A terrifying aura shook the sky. Boom! Lin Xian formed seals with his palms and unleashed the seal of the fearless lion. A golden lion covered the sky and shattered the divine claw of his opponent. Not only that, but it also tore open the other party's body and shattered Yin Tianfeng into pieces. Do you still want to continue? Lin Xian asked calmly. Damn it, I am not convinced. Yin Tianfeng roared in retaliation. However, in the next moment, he realized that Lin Xian was already in front of him. What speed, what movement technique was that? Shadowless Heaven's Net. Damn, you actually cultivated Shadowless Heaven's Net. Yin Tianfeng was stunned. He wanted to retreat, but a hand grabbed his shoulder and tore it apart. His body was ripped apart. His internal organs were shattered, and he was terrified. At that moment, Lin Xian pointed out with his finger, using his finger as a sword. Shura sword technique. With a finger on his forehead, Yin Tianfeng's head cracked open. His soul was also shaking non-stop. Lin Xian said coldly, "Now do you know the gap between the two of us?" Yin Tianfeng was in despair. He was badly injured while Lin Xian was unharmed. Was there a need to mention the gap? He lost. He wasn't Lin Xian's opponent at all. I lost. Yin Tianfeng gritted his teeth. However, he was shouting in his heart, "Wait for me. Once I return, I will bring all of San Saint Hall's strength to kill you. I will take back everything you have." He swore that he wouldn't let Lin Xian off. However, on the surface, he lowered his head and admitted defeat. Lin Xian looked ahead with a cold smirk on his face. "I said that if you fight with me, you will die if you lose." As he said that, he waved his hand and used Shura sword technique to slice Yin Tianfeng's soul apart. Pui! Yin Tianfeng's soul slowly disappeared. He couldn't believe it. Even until he died, he couldn't believe that Lin Xian killed him just like that. How dare he? Wasn't he afraid of his grandfather's revenge? Wasn't he afraid of being hunted down by murdering Hall? Suddenly he regretted it. What kind of person did he offend? He was simply a demon king. He was fearless. Lin Xian waved his hand and took Yin Tianfeng's storage ring as he looked at Yin Tianfeng's destroyed body and soul. According to him, Yin Tianfeng had an extraordinary status. Lin Xian wondered if he could learn the Emperor's skills. After obtaining the storage ring, his figure flickered and he left the place. He found a mountain range, built an immortal cave, and went in. After entering, Lin Xian checked Yin Tianfeng's storage ring and frowned. There was indeed an Emperor's skill, but it was also Shadowless Heaven's Net. He didn't even learn Shura sword technique. From the looks of it, these were the two skills that were commonly circulated. As for the other skills, there were probably other requirements. Perhaps it was battle achievements, or a higher cultivation level. Moreover, there were some changes at this moment. A blood-red token suddenly shone and formed an old man's face. "Who dared to kill my grandson?" The face was about to rush out, but it was smashed by Lin Xian. The token shattered into pieces, and the figure slowly disappeared. However, a venomous voice was still heard. "No matter who you are, I won't let you go." Lin Xian snorted at such a threat. He scanned the area with his Tianji god eyes and heaved a sigh of relief when he didn't find anything threatening. In the next moment, Lin Xian waved his hand and took out a scroll. The most important thing was to remove the Hell's Evil Eye rune from his body. Chapter 5002. The portrait of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was very magical. It shone brightly and had the power to purify everything. After Lin Xian unfolded it, he felt that he was enveloped by thousands of golden lights. The next moment, he became incomparably holy. The infernal evil eye behind him kept roaring. It seemed to want to jump out and tear the world apart. Lin Xian turned his back to the portrait of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. He felt as if thousands of sharp swords had pierced him. He suffered pain, but the pain of the infernal evil eye was 10 times more intense than him. There was black smoke rising from his body. Lin Xian gritted his teeth. Finally, the infernal evil eye behind him slowly dissipated. It let out an unwilling roar. There was no more. That was great. Lin Xian looked around and found that the infernal evil eye had really disappeared. He breathed a sigh of relief. He finally didn't have to be threatened by this thing anymore. After tidying up, Lin Xian felt that it was about time to go out. After he went out, he found that Yu and the others were still looking for him. He quickly met up with them. Yu asked, "Where did you go?" Lin Xian said, "I was chased by someone, so I escaped." He naturally wouldn't tell them the truth. He just made up a story. This made you and the others frown. In their opinion, Lin Xian should have left because he was timid. It seemed that this genius wasn't much. He was a little timid. They shook their heads and didn't say anything. They took Lin Xian back to the first level of hell. After they went out, they returned to Soul Sage Lord's territory and handed in the mission. Soul Sage Lord was naturally very happy. Although they had suffered heavy losses this time, the Blood Evil camp was even worse. Moreover, the Blood Evil camp seemed to have returned empty-handed. Lin Xian naturally knew what had happened. And he knew that the worst was not the Blood Slaughter camp, but the people of the Killing Temple. The 50 killing saints of the Killing Temple had all been killed. Even Yin Tianfeng had died. Sure enough, not long after, the people of the Killing Temple walked over angrily and asked about the situation. You and the others frowned. Yin Tianfeng had died? They naturally knew about this genius. This was a genius that Sand Sacred Hall had nurtured with all their might. The other party was also the 5th elder of the Killer Temple. It could be said that his status was extremely noble. Who would have thought that he would fall here? You said, "We have never seen a cloudy day before, but you should know how terrifying hell is. Even the first layer of hell was extremely dangerous. He might have been killed by some mysterious existence." The people from the Killing Temple gritted their teeth in anger. They would not give up. They had to find out who dared to kill Yin Tianfeng. They wanted to tear him to shreds. When Lin Xian faced these people, his face was expressionless. If these people knew that it was him, how would they react? Of course, this secret would probably never be revealed. After that, Moon and the others returned to cultivate and recover. Lin Xian once again went to look for the Soul Sage Lord. He said what he thought. When the Soul Sage Monarch heard this, he was shocked. You still want to go to the 18 levels of hell? Moreover, you want to go to the 2nd level this time. He was too shocked. One had to know that there was already a cloudy wind on the 1st level. If such a genius had fallen, there was no need to mention the 2nd and 3rd levels. It would be even more dangerous. Lin Xian said, "Please help me. I must break through." Lin Xian was no longer threatened by the infernal evil eye, but he did not plan to give up. He planned to find the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation again to increase his reincarnation power. It would be best if he could turn the Tianji Divine Eye into the Rinnegan. This way, his strength would be greatly improved. Only then would he be qualified to compete with the Dragon Emperor faction. Have you really decided? The Soul Sage Lord asked in a deep voice. Lin Xian nodded. He had made up his mind. The Soul Sage Lord said, "Well, a genius like you is indeed worth the risk. But you have to wait. Wait 3 months. The 2nd layer of hell will not open so easily." Then, Lin Xian began to wait. During this time, he had been cultivating Shadowless Sky River and Ashura Sword technique. These 2 top divine abilities were very difficult to cultivate. Every time there was a breakthrough, there would be an earth-shattering change in power. 3 months later, Lin Xian was even more proficient in cultivating the 2 divine abilities. On this day, Moon came again. "I am under the orders of the Sage Lord to bring you to hell." To be honest, Moon was very curious. Wasn't this guy a coward? Why did he still dare to go in? Lin Xian said, "Thank you." He followed Moon and soared into the sky. You gave him a storage ring that contained some resources for recovery and cultivation. At the same time, there were some maps that contained information about hell. Soon, they entered the 1st layer of hell. However, Moon did not leave. She continued to bring Lin Xian forward. There was a passage between each layer. It could only be opened at a specific time. Therefore, those who wanted to go to the 2nd layer were waiting near the passage. Sure enough, when Lin Xian and Moon arrived, there were already many people gathered around. These people's eyes were shining, and their auras were powerful. None of them could be weak. They were all great saints. Therefore, when they saw that Lin Xian was only a great saint, they frowned. Who was this person? Did he have a death wish? Humph, some people sneered. There were always arrogant geniuses who thought that their strength was outstanding. They wanted to enter the second layer of hell, but they were killed instantly after entering. This person was probably no exception. No one was optimistic about Lin Xian, and Lin Xian could not be bothered. How could these people know about his strength? Finally, after waiting for another 3 days, the passage ahead appeared. The people around said that it was okay. They could go in. However, no one went in. They were all waiting. It seemed that not only could they go in, but the people inside could also come out. A few figures flew out from inside. Those people were very powerful. As soon as they appeared, they looked around vigilantly, and then quickly fled. These people came from all corners of the underworld, and some of them were top-notch experts. Some of the hidden geniuses could not be underestimated. Also, you must be careful after entering. The old people inside might bully the newcomers. You must know that although everyone belongs to the underworld, the rule of the underworld is to kill. It's even more so inside. No one will protect you, even if you're a member of the Soul Sage Lord. In there, identity is not the most important. Strength is the most important. Therefore, don't be careless. Lin Xian nodded. I understand. He took a deep breath and walked forward. I wish you good luck. Moon sighed in his heart. To be honest, he was not optimistic about Lin Xian. Looking at the disappearing figure in front, he shook his head and left. It would take at least half a year for Lin Xian to come out from the second layer. Therefore, there was no need for him to stay here. He had to go back and report. Lin Xian's figure flashed and walked inside. After entering, he felt that the second layer was even more sinister and terrifying. The monstrous blood she seemed to be able to drive a great saint crazy. Chapter 5003. After Lin Xian entered, he walked forward. Suddenly, the ground split open. A terrifying blood-red spear shot towards him. The terrifying aura was enough to make anyone's blood run cold. At the critical moment, Lin Xian's figure flashed as he used Shadowless Heaven's net and dodged the attack by a hair's breadth. At the same time, the infernal sword flew out and slashed. With a clang, the divine spear was sent flying. At the same time, a figure retreated. When Lin Xian saw the figure, his face completely darkened. It was a blood-red zombie with a blood-red spear in his hand. It was extremely terrifying. He stared at Lin Xian and revealed a sinister smile. A mere Saint King was actually able to avoid my assassination. Interesting. It seemed that someone had entered this time. After saying that, he tore open the ground and disappeared. Lin Xian didn't chase after him. He didn't know who else was here other than the blood zombie. He didn't know much about the second level, so he had to be careful. Looking around, his face darkened as he shouted coldly, "Get out here!" With that, he charged into the distance. In the void far away, 2 figures appeared, holding blood-red sabers in their hands. Their faces were cold. "Good kid, you can actually detect our presence. Then go to hell." The 2 sabers emitted a bright light that enveloped Lin Xian and collided with the Hellfire Dragon's sword. With a clang, the 2 were sent flying. Damn it, the sword in this guy's hand is not ordinary. So what? Attack! The 2 of them, one on the left and one on the right, began to charge towards Lin Xian quickly. These 2 were both great sages and had terrifying strength. However, how could they be a match for Lin Xian? Lin Xian waved the Hellfire Dragon's sword and directly split open their heads. Blood dyed the sky red. The headless corpses fell. The 2 great sages widened their eyes in disbelief. They really didn't expect that the other party could kill them in one strike. The 2 of them even realized that the other party was using the legendary Azura sword technique. Could a young man use the Azura sword technique to such an extent? It was too unbelievable. Lin Xian was shocked as well. No wonder it was an emperor's skill. If the first sword of the Azura sword skill was already so terrifying, how much more terrifying would the remaining 6 sword moves be? However, with his current strength, he was still unable to use it. Next, Lin Xian continued on his journey. He discovered many battles. There were some who came in like him, but they didn't even live for half a day before they were assassinated. There were also some experts who were fighting with each other. The fighting was earth-shattering. Lin Xian saw two more. One of them was a blood-colored bat. Its wings were slashed open, covering the heaven and earth. He was fighting with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was no ordinary man either. He waved his scythe like a god of death. The two of them struck the ground from the sky, and one of them even reached the blood sea. In short, it was extremely terrifying. In the end, their energy was about to envelop Lin Xian. Lin Xian hurriedly used Shadowless Heaven's net and quickly left. It was too terrifying. Both of them were extremely terrifying existences in the Great Sage intermediate stage. I wonder if there are any Saint Monarch level existences here. And you actually dare to come to my territory. When Lin Xian once again arrived at a black land, the ground cracked open, and a black chariot appeared. There was a group of figures on it. He was wearing black armor, and holding a black sword in his hand. He was incomparably terrifying. Countless skeletons appeared around him. These weren't ordinary skeletons. They were formed after the death of a great sage. The long sword in the middle-aged figure's hand carried an extremely terrifying power. It controlled the skeletons and charged forward. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. It was too terrifying. This power wasn't something he could resist. Damn it. No matter how strong he was, it was a one-on-one battle. The other party brought an army of skeletons. How could he fight? However, what made him even more shocked was that he discovered that the other party was controlling the skeletons with that sword. That sword had the power of reincarnation. Of course, it was definitely not the reincarnation sword. However, the power of reincarnation shocked him. He didn't expect to discover the power of reincarnation as soon as he arrived. Young man, you can't escape. The man in black armor said coldly. He enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian said, Senior, I just arrived here. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm willing to give you a top-grade treasure sword. Please let me go. As he spoke, Lin Xian took out the Hellfire Dragon sword. The Hellfire Dragon sword scolded him directly. Damn it. Kid, you dared to trick me? Lin Xian warned him. Then, he said telepathically, I'll beat him at his own game. Do you understand? When you kill him, his sword has the power of reincarnation. I can share some with you. You can control the power of reincarnation. Give it to me? The Hellfire Dragon sword was shocked. Lin Xian didn't answer. Instead, he blinked at him. All right, since the Hellfire Dragon said so, I'll believe you this time. He became quiet. The man in black armor in front of him shouted coldly. What treasure? You're just a great sage? His eyes were filled with disdain. However, when he saw the Hellfire Dragon sword, his eyes lit up. This sword seemed to be unusual. The Hellfire Dragon sword was proud. Of course, it was my treasure sword. Present it. The man in black armor in front of him shouted coldly. Two skeletons walked up and took the Hellfire Dragon sword away. Lin Xian became extremely respectful. He lowered his head. However, there was a shocking light in his eyes. Senior, are you satisfied? Lin Xian asked with a smile. The man in black armor held the Hellfire Dragon sword in his left hand. He waved it gently and tore a crack of tens of thousands of meters in the sky. He laughed loudly. I'm very satisfied. Kid, although you're an ant and trespassed into my territory, I can show you mercy and spare your life. Let's go. He waved his hand and the skeletons opened up a path. Lin Xian clasped his fists. Thank you, Senior. He turned and left. When Lin Xian left the skeletons, the Hellfire Dragon sword suddenly emitted a terrifying light. You think you're worthy of me? He slashed at the man in black armor. The man in black's pupils shrank. He didn't expect the Hellfire Dragon sword to be able to attack. Furthermore, he had caught him off guard and was charging straight at him. You're courting death. He roared and wanted to raise his sword to block. However, the Hellfire Dragon sword was very fast. It directly cut off his entire right hand. At the same time, it carried the black demon's sword and soared into the sky, tearing the 9 heavens apart. Damn it! The man in black armor was angry. This sword couldn't kill him, but it took away his black sword. This was unbearable. Go after him. Kill him for me. Tear that sword and that brat into pieces. He roared at the sky. The white bone army around him split into 2 groups, and charged forward, covering the sky and covering the earth. One went for the Hellfire Dragon's sword, the other went for Lin Xian. At this moment, countless people in the 2nd level of hell were alarmed. Heavens, the Black Devil Lord was angry. Who made him so angry? Countless people were shocked. Some of the plants in hell sent news. It was a young man who just came in. It can't be? Who was so daring? Could it be that some of the top young geniuses in the underworld had entered? Chapter 5004. Those top geniuses were very terrifying. They were very close to the Emperor. Therefore, only such a genius could be so daring. However, they didn't know that this person wasn't from the underworld. It was Lin Xian. The moment Lin Xian left the Bone Army, he used Shadowless Heaven's net. He began to fight with the Hellfire Dragon's sword. When the Hellfire Dragon's sword first obtained the black sword, it laughed loudly. It felt the terrifying power of reincarnation on it, and was very happy. Although it had an extraordinary background and was like a divine sword, it didn't have the power of reincarnation. If it had it, its grade and power could be increased again. But very quickly, he felt that something was wrong. That was because he discovered that endless white bones were rushing towards him. One by one, the bone swords and bone weapons kept attacking its body. It made its body shake. Damn it, it hurts so much. The Hellfire Dragon eyes kept roaring. Lin Xian sent a voice transmission and gave the other party a place to go. Then, he used his movement technique and quickly disappeared. Because he was also being chased by many bone armies. Lin Xian's movement technique became more and more proficient in this pursuit. Soon, he shook off the bone army and arrived at a mountain peak. He began to wait. After waiting for about 2 days, the Hellfire Dragon's sword returned. Its body became dim, and it was about to go crazy. Damn it, it actually made me suffer such a loss. I will definitely kill it. It roared crazily. Lin Xian said. Where's the black sword? It's here. There was a black sword under the Hellfire Dragon's sword. It was the sword that Lin Xian wanted. A sharp light appeared in his eyes. He directly swallowed it with the heaven-swallowing jar. The Hellfire Dragon sword said, Kid, I spent so much effort. You said that you would give me the power of reincarnation. Lin Xian said. Don't worry, I'll take a look first. He also entered the heaven-swallowing jar. Endless darkness enveloped her. A black whirlpool was bobbing up and down. The Fire Dragon's sword waited at the side while Lin Xian went in. After that, he brought the black sword into the sword world. He sat down cross-legged, and the black sword wanted to resist. Lin Xian used the power of the sword world and transformed it into 2 heavenly monuments, directly suppressing it. Then, he activated his heavenly secret god eyes and started to absorb the reincarnation energy. The heavenly secret god eyes became stronger and stronger, but the black sword became dimmer and dimmer. Just like that, half a year passed. On this day, Lin Xian stood up with a smile on his face. The power of reincarnation on the black sword was completely absorbed by him. He could feel that his heavenly secret divine eyes had become even stronger than before. He could even construct a simple reincarnation passage. Lin Xian was overjoyed. He walked out. The Hellfire Dragon sword said, Brat, you took so long, give me the power of reincarnation. Lin Xian said, I'll give you 2 choices. First, I'll give you the power of reincarnation. Second, I can reduce the time you have to work as a coolie. What do you mean? The Hellfire Dragon sword asked. Lin Xian said, Your remnant soul is still expanding your territory. Do you plan to expand your territory for the rest of your life? 10,000 years, 20,000 years? 100,000 years? You're a remnant soul, wandering outside of reincarnation. You won't die, but you won't recover. If I want, I can let you expand your territory forever. Of course, I'm a kind person, I won't do that. If you're willing to give up the power of reincarnation, I plan to reduce the time by 100 years. Only 100 years. If you can't, reduce it by 1,000 years. The Hellfire Dragon's sword roared crazily. The corners of Lin Xian's lips curled up. Since the other party was already subdued by Xia Jiuyo, then the coolie would have unlimited time. Reducing 1,000 years from unlimited time was no different from not reducing it at all. The Hellfire Dragon's sword fell for it, but Lin Xian wouldn't tell it to the other party. He nodded. All right, I'll reduce it by 1,000 years. If you can let me get more reincarnation energy, I'll reduce it by a few thousand years every time. How about it? All right, it's a deal. The Hellfire Dragon's sword seemed to see the hope of freedom. And I can feel your presence again. In a distant valley, the man in black armor roared crazily. Around him was an army of skeletons. After half a year, he finally felt the presence of that person from back then. How dare you snatch my black sword and lie to me? I won't let you go. He led the army of skeletons and charged towards Lin Xian. Not good, I've been discovered. The Hellfire Dragon's sword saw the army of skeletons surrounding them. His face turned green. Kid, think of a way. These are the corpses of great sages. Lin Xian's face was cold. You dare to come? And return it to me, I'll tear you to pieces. The man in black armor roared crazily. He was fooled by a young man, and he couldn't accept it. Moreover, this matter had spread. The experts and living beings in this area were all laughing at him. Lin Xian said, You want your sword, right? Return it to you. He waved his hand, and a black sword flew out and flew forward. The man in black armor's eyes lit up. He grabbed it, and then his face turned ugly. Damn it, the power of reincarnation is gone. You destroyed my reincarnation rune. I want you to die. He turned around and swung his sword. So that thing is called the reincarnation rune. Tell me, where did you get it? I can spare your life. Lin Xian snorted. You dare to covet the reincarnation rune? The man in black armor roared crazily. He sneered. Spare my life? I'm a mid-stage great sage. Why do I need you to spare my life? Go to hell. The sword energy shone again and descended from the 9 heavens. It could cut through heaven and earth. In an instant, it enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted and didn't resist at all. Shadowless heavens net. He came to a distance, but the army of skeletons around him still sealed off this area. The man in black armor said, You can't escape. Today is the day you die. Lin Xian smiled. You can control this army of skeletons because of the reincarnation rune. Now that the reincarnation rune is gone, you still want to control them? I can only say that you're too reckless. Oh no. The man in black armor's expression changed. He had a bad feeling about this. Indeed, he couldn't control them for too long. That was why he was so angry. However, it shouldn't be a problem to kill a young man. Lin Xian sneered. It seems that you won't give up until you see the coffin. Let me tell you, how should I use the power of reincarnation? His eyes shone with golden light, and a pair of golden heavenly eyes enveloped the entire army of skeletons. Reincarnation defied the heavens. The light of reincarnation flew out and enveloped the army of skeletons. In the next moment, these skeletons roared crazily. The green light in their eyes kept flickering, as if it was about to be extinguished. Lin Xian's voice also sounded. You've already died in battle. Perhaps it was bad luck, or perhaps it was revenge. But in any case, you're already dead. Your souls will enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. Live again. But someone interfered with the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation, leaving your remnant souls in the skeletons and unable to reincarnate. You can't be reborn. It's that person. Kill him, and you can enter reincarnation. Lin Xian pointed at the man in black armor. Chapter 5005. Damn brat, what are you doing? The black-armored man roared crazily. He was very afraid, but he soon sneered. You want to control this army of skeletons? What a joke! You should cultivate for 10,000 years. In his opinion, Lin Xian could not do it at all. However, he still underestimated the heavenly secret divine eyes. Lin Xian used the heavenly secret divine eyes, and a pair of golden eyes looked down in all directions. The light of reincarnation enveloped the army of skeletons. The army of skeletons roared crazily, and the green light in their eyes kept flickering. Their souls seemed to be leaving. Seeing this scene, the black-armored man's expression finally changed. No! Damn it! He used the Dharma seal to suppress them. However, there were too many souls. Without the power of reincarnation, it was difficult for him to suppress them. Lin Xian pointed at the black-robed man and said loudly, Kill him, and your souls can ascend to heaven. I'll let you enter reincarnation. Roar! The army of skeletons roared crazily. Then, they turned their heads and stared at the black-armored man before pouncing over. No! Damn it, how dare you! The black-armored man roared crazily, trying to escape. However, there were too many skeletons around him. In an instant, they enveloped him and tore him into pieces. It was not that the black-armored man was weak, but the skeletons around him were too powerful. They had obeyed the power of reincarnation before, and now they were angry. How could the black-armored man escape? He brought this upon himself. Lin Xian sneered and said, I'll help you enter reincarnation. He used the heavenly secret divine eyes to the extreme, forming a reincarnation vortex. Come in, your souls! The souls of the surrounding skeletons rose into the air and entered reincarnation. In this way, they could be reincarnated. The skeletons fell one after another, piling up into a mountain of skeletons. Beads of sweat dripped down Lin Xian's forehead. To be honest, such a long time of continuous reincarnation had consumed a lot of his energy. However, he felt that it was worth it. This time, his heavenly secret divine eyes had become stronger. The 18 levels of hell was indeed a good place. Next, he had to continue searching for the power of reincarnation. At this moment, the sound of applause rang out. Good technique. I didn't expect you to be able to use the power of reincarnation. Upon hearing this, Lin Xian's pupils shrank. He turned around and shouted coldly. Who was it? Come out. A woman walked over from the front. She was dressed in a black robe and had a beautiful face. There was a smile on her face. Don't be afraid. I don't have any ill intentions. Then what do you want? Lin Xian's face was cold. Hell was a cruel place, and no one would hold back. Naturally, he would not be careless. The woman in front of him was so mysterious. She actually didn't leave after seeing his methods. This showed that the other party was very confident. Who are you? Lin Xian asked again. My name is Nai Luo, and I come from the Bridge of Helplessness. The Bridge of Helplessness? This was also one of the most powerful organizations in the underworld. But why was the other party looking for him? Nero laughed. It seems like you don't know anything. Well, for a sage king like you to be able to come here, you must have broken through some restrictions. The people here were all here to cultivate and improve their strength. Every level of hell was extremely mysterious, so it was also extremely dangerous. Not only did they have to face the dangers of hell, but they also had to face the dangers of the people around them. And fighting alone was not a wise choice. Therefore, some like-minded people gathered together to form small groups. I'm here to invite you to join the illusionary flowers, reflected moon. The illusionary flowers, reflected moon. Lin Xian frowned. Nero laughed. That's right, the illusionary flowers, reflected moon is the organization we are currently in. How about it, are you interested? Nero said that the man in black armor from before was not the only one. The others also have some special methods. You might even meet someone from an organization. At that time, no matter how strong you are, I'm afraid you can only escape. You might even be killed. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Although he had consumed a lot of energy, he could still feel it. The woman in front of him did not seem to have any ill intentions. So he nodded and said, "Okay, I am indeed interested." Nero laughed and waved her hand. "Come with me." With that, she turned and flew into the distance. Lin Xian followed her. He took out an elixir and swallowed it. He quickly circulated the immortality technique to recover the energy he had consumed. The two of them flew for about half a day before slowly coming to a stop. Nero looked at the lake in front of her. With a wave of her hand, a passage appeared in the middle of the lake. She flew in. Lin Xian followed her in. Before entering, he had already used the heavenly secret god eye to check. There was indeed a powerful aura below. It should be the other members of the illusionary flowers, reflected moon. After entering, there was indeed a different world inside. There was an underground cave with many people inside. These people were all great sages. There were even a few great sages in the intermediate stage. One could imagine that Lin Xian, a sage king, was here. It was indeed very strange. "Nero, you're back." The people inside smiled and greeted the woman in black. When they saw that Nero did not come back alone, they were all puzzled. "Did someone come back again? Nero, is it a new person you found?" They all looked at Lin Xian and then frowned. He was only a sage king. They were really stunned. Someone said, "Nero, why is the person you found so weak this time?" As soon as this was said, the others laughed. Indeed, the weakest among them was a great sage. There were even people in the intermediate stage of the great sage. A sage king was indeed not enough. However, Nero said, "What do you people know? He is a top-notch genius." Although he was only a sage king, his means were very terrifying. He could use the power of reincarnation. "Oh, really?" As soon as this was said, the others' expressions changed. The fact that he could come to the second level meant that he did have some means. As for the power of reincarnation, it surprised them even more. This kind of power was a legendary power. It was very magical. "Nero, is what you said true? Does he really know how to use the power of reincarnation?" At this moment, another voice came from the front. Lin Xian also looked up. In the next moment, he was stunned. He found that there was a throne in front of him. On the throne was not a person, but a floating mirror. There was a strange flower in the mirror that kept spinning. It was a black flower that was unusually demonic. The illusionary flowers, reflected moon. It seemed that the person who created this organization was related to this mirror. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. When he was looking at the other party, the mirror was also looking at him. Soon, his figure was reflected in the mirror. Chapter 5006. "Young man, what's your name?" the mirror asked in a deep voice. Lin Xian said, "My name is Lin Wudi." "Lin Wudi?" The others were shocked. What an arrogant name! He actually dared to call himself invincible. The mirror kept shaking. He was indeed arrogant. "Lin Wudi, do you really know how to use the power of reincarnation? Can you show it to me?" Lin Xian's eyes shone with the light of reincarnation, forming a reincarnation vortex. When the surrounding people felt this power, they all exclaimed in surprise. It was indeed the power of reincarnation. They looked at Lin Xian enviously. The power of reincarnation was extremely mysterious. Very few people could control it. The mirror in front of him smiled. "That's great. Now I'm inviting you on behalf of the illusionary flowers, water and moon. Are you willing to join?" Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. "I don't know much about you guys. Can you tell me more about it?" The mirror said. "That's right. It seems like you haven't been here for long. There are countless organizations on the 18th level of hell. These organizations are all formed by the people who came here to train. In this organization, we have some restrictions. For example, we are not allowed to betray. Of course, there are more restrictions. As long as the organization is in danger, you can come back. Other times, we won't restrict you. Also, As long as you find the location of the treasure, you can use the power of the organization to attack it together. Even our organizations only exist on the 18th level of hell. As long as you leave here and go to other places in the underworld, there are no restrictions at all. Lin Xian understood after hearing this. Actually, it was because the 18th level of hell was too dangerous. These people formed temporarily to improve their safety. They were also afraid of danger, so they formed some conditions. For example, they couldn't betray, etc. Although Lin Xian was very confident in himself, the 18th level of hell was also dangerous. He might come into contact with these people at any time. Moreover, he didn't know much about this place. It was good to have a group of people who could help him provide information. After thinking about it, he nodded and said, "Okay, I'm willing to join." Very good. The mirror stopped shaking, and a black flower flew out from it. It floated to Lin Xian's side. He said, "This is the symbol of the illusionary flowers, water and moon. It can prove your identity. We can even contact our teammates." Lin Xian put the black flower away. "Congratulations, you have become one of us." Nero walked over with a smile and said, "Next, I'm going to explore a place. Come with me." Lin Xian nodded. Nero turned around and looked at the people around him. "I still need 7 more helpers. This time, I am preparing to explore the spirit refining territory. Who is willing to go?" Nero's voice sounded out. The others were astonished. The spirit refining territory was not an ordinary place. Immediately, a few figures walked over and said that they were willing to go. Soon, the 7 of them were assembled. Among them, there were 2 great sages of the middle stage. It had to be said that it was truly shocking. One should know that a mid-stage great sage could already become an elder in the True Path sect and the other 2 great orthodoxies. Even in the clans of the ancients, they were still at the level of elders. His status was very high. Lin Xian had to look up to such a person before. But now, he could stand shoulder to shoulder with these people. In fact, Lin Xian was confident that as long as he could condense the true Rinnegan, he would be able to surpass them. "Let's go. Everyone is here." Including Lin Xian and Nero, there are a total of 9 people. Nero waved his hand and took out a black leaf. After everyone stood on it, they turned into a stream of light and flew quickly. Along the way, everyone was silent. Lin Xian looked around curiously. He had not been to many places on the 2nd level. Hence, he was amazed when he saw the various terrains. Suddenly, the ground below them split open. Another palm covered the sky and covered the earth. It was a palm made of bones. The palm was red in color with blood-red runes on it. It grabbed at the void. Lin Xian exclaimed. The others were shocked too. They thought that it was going to attack them. Nero formed a seal with his palm and the black leaf changed direction. The blood-red palm did not attack them. Instead, it grabbed at the front. In the void, an angry roar could be heard. Then, the shadow of a blood mountain appeared in the sky. It was a blood-red bat. Each of them was as big as a 10,000 feet tall mountain. When they flapped their wings, the sky and the earth cracked. Their fangs tore everything apart. The 2 sides engaged in a fierce battle, as if 2 gods were fighting. Nero's face was cold. He naturally knew that such existences were very scary. One of them was enough to threaten their lives. Hence, he was prepared to take a detour. He formed a seal with his palm and the black leaf changed direction, preparing to leave. However, at this moment, a cloud of blood-red mist rushed towards them. It turned out that a blood bat that was fighting in the sky had targeted them and was coming towards them. Not good, the black leaf quickly streaked past, turning into a bolt of lightning, narrowly dodging the attack. However, the blood bat spread its wings and flew away. Damn it! Are we being targeted? When the others saw this scene, their faces turned extremely ugly. At this moment, a great sage middle-stage expert snorted coldly. It's just a blood bat. Although it's powerful, if the 9 of us attack together, we can definitely kill it. Nero, quickly pull away and take him away. We'll attack. Nero nodded and sped up. The black leaf was even faster and turned into a stream of light. The blood bat chased after them. When they were far away from the battle, they stopped. Two great sage middle stage experts waved their hands and terrifying laws rushed over. Nero also looked at Lin Xian and said, "Use the power of reincarnation to help us." Lin Xian nodded and said, "Rob." A pair of golden eyes appeared in the void and looked down at the blood-red bat. The light of reincarnation turned into the sword of reincarnation and attacked with overwhelming force. The blood-red bat was challenged. He roared at the sky. With his strength and power, these people were like ants in his eyes. Now that an ant dared to challenge him, how could he tolerate it? In an instant, he let out a terrifying roar and fought against the sword of reincarnation in the sky. The sword of reincarnation shattered and turned into a sea of reincarnation that swept between heaven and earth. It was used to affect the blood-red bat. This was a good opportunity. When Nero and the others saw this, they all attacked. These 8 experts were very powerful, especially the 2 great sage middle stage experts. One of them formed countless blood-red mountains that pressed down from the sky. The other held a blood-red saber in his hand. With a sweep, it destroyed everything. Nero even summoned a bridge of helplessness that appeared under the blood-red bat. It was used to affect the opponent's soul. Once the blood-red bat was completely enveloped by the bridge of helplessness, it was very likely that it would lose its memory and die. Chapter 5007. The blood-colored bat let out a crazy roar as it was surrounded by the group of people. It didn't expect these ants to be so terrifying. It roared and screamed for help. In the distance, another blood-colored bat rushed over. This made Nero and the rest change their expressions. Oh no, they could still fight against one blood-colored bat. But if another one came, they wouldn't be able to fight against it. These things were far more powerful than them. Let's go. Helplessness roared and they quickly moved. Lin Xian also took a deep breath and was about to leave. But at this moment, the void cracked and a huge iron rod flew through the air. With a clang, it hit one of the blood-colored bats and turned it into a bloody mist. This shocking scene caused Lin Xian and the others to be stunned. The other blood-colored bat was also stunned. Heaven and earth fell silent. The heavens were so terrifying. The people of the catoptric deflection were terrified. This was a peerless expert. Even Lin Xian's pupils constricted. The blood-colored bat was so terrifying that it had surpassed the mid-stage of the great sage realm. Even if he wanted to deal with it, he would have to use the power of the heaven-devouring jar or the great dragon sword soul. But now, someone killed such a terrifying blood-colored bat with a single strike. How powerful was this person? The other blood-colored bat was also terrified and wanted to escape. But at this moment, the iron rod waved again and pressed down like an ancient demonic mountain. It directly tore the second blood-colored bat into pieces. Heaven and earth shattered and endless cracks appeared. The 2 huge blood-colored bats fell. Their sage blood turned into a sea of blood that roared between heaven and earth. Helplessness was facing a powerful enemy. Was this person a friend or a foe? Lin Xian also took a deep breath. If it was a powerful enemy, he would have to use the power of the heaven-devouring jar. Thank you for your help. Helplessness cupped his fists and turned to leave. However, the iron rod in the air was like an iron chain crossing the river, blocking their path. What was the meaning of this? Helplessness frowned. Could it be that you want to attack me? You guys get lost. He stays. A cold voice was heard as the iron rod was pointed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. The other party was coming for him. Ji He and the others also frowned and said coldly, "We all belong to the Mirror's flower, Mirror's moon. Since we came together, we naturally have to leave together." Did he have a death wish? The huge iron cudgel in the sky came crashing down. Damn it! Hell roared furiously, striking out with the bridge of helplessness to resist. With a clang, he was almost sent flying. The bridge of helplessness was split into 2 halves. The people behind also shouted angrily and attacked one after another. And they couldn't stop it. The laws and divine abilities of the heavenly palace were completely obliterated by this iron staff. A few of them were also injured. He was too powerful, so powerful that they found it hard to resist. Linwoody, hurry up and leave. Fuharor, we can still block his attack. However, Lin Xian shook his head. There was no need for that. He could see that the gap between them was too big. But there was no reason for them to die for him, so he didn't run. Instead, he looked at the iron cudgel in front of him and said coldly, I don't think I know you. Why are you looking for me? Eat my cudgel first. The other party raised the iron cudgel and charged directly at Lin Xian. With one strike, the surrounding sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The entire void had turned into a state of chaos. Not good. Hell and the others' pupils shrank. They couldn't block such a powerful attack. Lin Xian definitely couldn't block it. Could it be that he wanted to kill him in one strike? Their eyes were filled with despair. However, a black vortex appeared in the shattered void. It kept spinning. The vortex directly blocked the iron cudgel's attack. The two were in a stalemate in the air. Then, the iron cudgel pressed down with an even more terrifying force. The vortex was torn apart, but Lin Xian had already arrived on the other side. He actually blocked it. Hell and the others were shocked. They had personally experienced how terrifying the power of the iron cudgel was. They couldn't block a single strike even if they worked together. However, Lin Xian could block it alone. It was really unbelievable. It seemed that they had underestimated Lin Xian. It's useless. You can't kill me, Lin Xian said coldly. Tell me your background. You're actually capable. You actually managed to dodge my attack. I can sense that you have an extremely strong reincarnation power, so I need you to help me do something. Lin Xian frowned after hearing this. I'm not familiar with you. Indeed, we don't know each other. However, you saved me, so I will naturally repay you. In the future, if you encounter any danger, I, old son, will help you settle it. What arrogance! Lin Xian smiled. Then, if I ask you to kill the emperor, can you settle it too? Yes, the other party's voice was extremely confident. Moreover, I know that you should still need the power of reincarnation. I have it here. How about it? Are you interested? I, old son, won't lie to you. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He felt that this person was very interesting. Although he was a little hot-tempered and his attacks were terrifying. However, he didn't seem to be a bad person. He said, All right, I'll meet you then. He was also very curious about such a person. All right, follow me. The iron cudgel led the way in the air. Lin Xian rose into the air. Behind him, Hell and the others asked, Are we really going? This guy was very mysterious and seemed to be very evil. The others were also frowning. Lin Xian said, It's fine. If there's any danger, we can still escape. I have a way. Well, Nero and the others were also very curious about the origin of such a person. Hence, they all followed him. After flying for about 2 days, they finally arrived. This was already a very deep place in the second level of hell. The surroundings were very dangerous and there were very few people here. Hellfire appeared in front of them again. This flame was very terrifying. Hell and the others had to use all their strength to resist it. The Hellfire Dragon's sword also said, feeling a familiar aura. It flew out. It circled around to absorb the Hellfire. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He was looking for that iron cudgel. I, old son, am here. Suddenly, a loud voice came from the mountains in front of them. Lin Xian's body shook and he sped up. In the next moment, he descended. There was a steep mountain in front of them. It had an extremely terrifying aura. It seemed to destroy everything here. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air after he saw what was happening. There was actually a person underneath the mountain. The entire mountain was carved with runes and there were even chains around it. This scene seemed a little familiar. Lin Xian squinted his eyes, because the hellfire dragon was suppressed just now. Back then, it was a black stone tablet. Now it was a mountain. Could it be that this person was like the hellfire dragon, an extremely terrifying supreme existence? Hell and the others on the side were also creeped out. He said, "Linwoody, I feel that something is wrong. Why don't we go?" Chapter 5008. Young man, I'm here. A furry palm waved towards him. Lin Xian was surprised. He looked carefully and realized that the person being suppressed by the mountain was not a human, but a monkey. A demon beast? Lin Xian flew forward. Although the situation seemed strange and dangerous, Lin Xian was confident that he could handle it. Even if he released another hellfire dragon, he could still enter the sword world. He walked over and looked at the suppressed monkey. "Who are you? Why are you suppressed here?" "My name is Sun Qitian. I'm not sure why I'm suppressed, because I've been suppressed here since I was born. If I, old Sun, knew who dared to suppress me, I would definitely beat him into a bloody mist. I would make him unable to reincarnate. I wonder who suppressed him?" Lin Xian was surprised. He did not believe him. After so many years, how could he not know? "Humph, young man, I, old Sun, am only 2,000 years old. Do you think I'm old?" "Impossible." Nai Luo and the rest were all stunned. 2,000 years old, his strength was so terrifying, and he was being suppressed. How did he cultivate? Could it be that he was so terrifying from the moment he was born? Lin Xian was also shocked. One must know that the other party could easily kill the bloodbat. This meant that his true strength would be even more powerful. This person was indeed strange. "Don't try to lie to me, tell me the truth." Lin Xian snorted. Sun Qitian snorted. "What, I, old Sun, am speaking the truth. Could it be that you were not powerful after you were born? I feel that you did not need to cultivate much to reach this stage. If I, old Sun, had been free for the past 2,000 years, I would have pierced through the sky." Lin Xian was even more shocked after hearing this. He suddenly had a thought. One must know that there were such people in the world, such as the Dragon Prince and the Kunping Zi. Such people became saints at birth. They did not need to cultivate. After awakening their bloodline, their strength would increase by leaps and bounds. But that was an emperor. Could it be that the monkey in front of him was also an emperor? If that was the case, it would be too unbelievable. No matter if it was the Kunping Zi or the Dragon Prince, they were protected by countless people and had a great emperor family behind them. That was an existence that stood at the pinnacle of the world. But now, if this monkey was the emperor's son, that would be way too tragic. He was directly suppressed by someone. Who was it? He dared to make a move against someone from the emperor clan? He didn't know about any of this. But at this moment, Whitey flew out and looked ahead. Her big eyes reddened instantly, and there were even tears falling down. He began to sob. "Hey, little monkey, come here." Sun Qitian was shocked. With a wave of his hand, Little White flew over. Sun Qitian was extremely envious. "You're quite free, little one." Little White jumped on Sun Qitian's head, its big eyes red. He seemed to feel pity for Sun Qitian. Then, he flew back and said to Lin Xian, "Save him, he's so pitiful." I could tell that he wasn't a bad person. Lin Xian was shocked. This was the first time Little White was in such a state. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, since you are all monkeys, I will save him." "Really? That's great." Little White smiled happily. Lin Xian walked over and said, "How can I help you? Could it be done just by lifting the mountain? If it was that easy, I would have shattered it long ago." Sun Qitian sighed. "All these years, I only felt the power of reincarnation. It seems that the power of reincarnation is suppressing me. That's why I found you. You have the power of reincarnation. Absorb this power. Leave the rest to me." "Okay." Lin Xian nodded. He didn't expect it to be so simple. He was originally hoping to find the power of reincarnation. Now that there was one for free, how could he not want it? Then, he sat there cross-legged and began to absorb the power of reincarnation. His heavenly secret divine eyes shone brightly and turned into a reincarnation vortex. The entire reincarnation mountain in front of him kept shaking, and the power of reincarnation quickly swept out. This was a very slow process. During this time, they also came over. Lin Xian said, "I'm sorry, everyone, I can't leave for a while. Why don't you go and carry out your mission first?" "Okay, then we'll go first. If you're in danger, just tell us. We'll come." Nero said a few words and then left. This place became quiet once again. This time, the absorption lasted for 5 years. Lin Xian felt that his eyes had an extremely strange change. Especially her right eye, it was even more terrifying and mysterious. It even used runes to form a mountain peak. It was very similar to the mountain peak in front of him. In the end, his right eye seemed to be saturated and couldn't absorb any more. Lin Xian sighed and stood up. With his current strength, this was probably the best he could do. "Is it enough?" Lin Xian stood up and looked forward. In the past 5 years, Little White had been with Sun Qitian. She even took out spirit fruits from time to time and shared them with Sun Qitian. At this moment, when she saw Lin Xian coming, she jumped happily on Lin Xian's shoulder and asked. Lin Xian was almost done. He looked at Sun Qitian. "What do you think?" Sun Qitian said. "I feel that the power of reincarnation has decreased a lot. I'll give it a try." His body emitted an incomparable light. Then, he wanted to stand up. The entire mountain peak kept shaking, and the surrounding chains made a rumbling sound. His body was like a dragon, and he was about to leave. However, at this moment, the power of the mountain peak erupted again and directly pressed him to the ground. Endless pressure spread and the mountain peak shattered. Sun Qitian let out a crazy roar. "Still not enough?" Lin Xian furrowed his brows when he saw this scene. It seemed that the power of reincarnation was not only here. The power of the entire mountain peak and the chains was definitely enough to make anyone despair. Only Sun Qitian was miraculous. If it were another great sage, they would have died hundreds of times. "Damn it, I'm not satisfied!" Sun Qitian roared to the sky. It had been 2,000 years. Since he was born, he had been longing for freedom. However, for the past 2,000 years, he could only be suppressed here. Now that the power of reincarnation had weakened to this extent, he still couldn't leave? Lin Xian walked up and said, "Brother Monkey, it seems that I have to help you again." He took a deep breath and summoned the great dragon sword soul. Then, he crazily activated the power of the sword world. Slash! This sword took the fortune of heaven and earth and turned it into the eternity of time. Even Sun Qitian was shocked. He really couldn't imagine that the human in front of him could unleash a sword attack that shocked and terrified him. But soon he smiled. With this sword attack, he definitely had hope of escaping. Lin Xian's sword slashed on the mountain peak. Heaven and earth shook, and the mountain peak collapsed. A large crack was split open. The surrounding chains also shook uneasily, as if they were about to collapse. Sun Qitian roared to the sky. "Brother Lin, stay away. I want to go out." Chapter 5009. Boom! 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 The entire place changed as if it was the end of the world. Lin Xian quickly retreated with Whitey. He could feel that his body was about to split apart. The power in front was too terrifying. Lin Xian retreated far away. Sun Qitian said, "Not enough. Brother Lin, little brother, retreat further." Lin Xian retreated again. At the same time, she took out some elixirs to recover. This time, it should be enough. Sun Qitian did not say anything. Instead, he roared and thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky. The sky and earth in front of him shook, and the black mountain once again rose to the north, and the chains around it tightened. Sun Qitian's body shone brightly as if he was about to walk out of the suppressed mountain. The mountain and the chains formed a terrifying light to block him. However, the mountain had been through 5 years. Lin Xian had absorbed an endless amount of reincarnation energy. In addition, it was split apart by the great dragon sword spirit. It no longer had its previous power. Many of the mysterious runes on it were shattered. Hence, it could no longer be suppressed. Sun Qitian's roar shook the entire second level of hell. Those who were training in the second level all raised their heads and looked into the distance in fear. What was that? Whose roar was that? There were some powerful existences on the second level who had looks of horror on their faces. It can't be, could it be that guy is coming out? They knew that the second level had suppressed an extremely terrifying being. However, that guy would never be able to come out. Now, something unexpected was happening. Damn! Was the seal really going to be broken? The Hellfire Dragon sword circled around Lin Xian in shock. He asked, "Kid, do you know what kind of being you have released?" Lin Xian asked. "What do you know? Do you know Sun Qitian's true identity?" Lin Xian's eyes lit up. "If you know, tell me. I can reduce the years." The Hellfire Dragon sword's eyes lit up. However, he shook his head. "I really don't know." He only knew that he had been suppressed here for more than 2,000 years. In fact, he had been suppressed even earlier. However, at that time, it was still a stone. It could be said that it was a stone without any signs of life. That was why he had no memories of it. 2,000 years ago, he jumped out of the stone and turned into a monkey. Only then did he have life. Lin Xian was shocked by Sun Qitian's extraordinary background. He asked, "Are you sure it's a rock and not a divine crystal?" He knew that the Dragon Prince had been sealed by the divine crystal. It was very likely that Sun Qitian had the same experience. Who was it? He dared to suppress an existence with such a heaven-defying bloodline. Even the Hellfire Dragon didn't know this, because this guy was also suppressed by someone. Boom! The intense rumbling sounds were still ringing out in front of him, and the entire sky was shattered. Sun Qitian's angry shouts could be heard from time to time. With a loud bang, a golden light tore through the 9 heavens and appeared in the 9 heavens. Sun Qitian looked up to the sky and laughed. "Ha ha ha, I, old Sun, am finally out. It's already 2,000 years. I, old Sun, will definitely kill my way up to the 9 heavens and tear that mastermind of yours into pieces." As he spoke, he took out a large iron staff and swept it in all directions, blasting the sky full of chains and the black mountain peak into flat ground. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" Sun Qitian roared, his killing intent shocking. The living beings in the second level were so scared that they prostrated themselves on the ground. This aura was too terrifying. Even Lin Xian felt a shocking power that seemed to be suppressing him. This scene shocked Lin Xian, because at this moment, he felt like he was facing the Dragon Prince and Kunping Zi. Lin Xian felt that it was very likely that the other party was also an emperor's son. Of course, this was just his guess. He had to ask Sun Qitian for the specifics. Suddenly, a vortex appeared in the sky, followed by a huge hand that covered the sky, descending from the sky. There was a mysterious rune on the palm, and from afar, it looked like a black lotus. "Suppress!" A loud voice rang out, like the roar of a god. As soon as this huge palm appeared, the entire 18 levels of hell shook violently, so much so that those in the underworld were alarmed. What's going on? Is someone attacking the 18 levels of hell by force? This power seemed to have surpassed everything. Countless people were shocked, and those ancient beings all flew to the 9 heavens to take a look. It's not targeting us, but the 18 levels of hell. What's inside? Could it be that something happened to those who were sealed and suppressed? The 18 levels of hell were very mysterious and ancient. Many great emperors had appeared here before and set up some traps. There were some existences suppressed on each level of the 18 levels of hell. These people either had shocking origins or were extremely powerful, but they were all suppressed here by a great power. Some had been suppressed to death, while some were still alive and in a deep sleep. At this moment, A huge hand that covered the sky appeared in the 18 levels of hell. It was hard to imagine. Who was it targeting? Sun Qitian roared angrily. He roared at the sky, and the huge iron staff directly attacked the 9 heavens. It collided with the huge hand. With a loud bang, the sky fell and the earth cracked. He vomited blood and flew back. His body was shattered. He had no choice. Although he was powerful, the huge hand that covered the sky was too terrifying. It seemed to have surpassed everything, just like the palm of a great emperor. Not good, a supreme power. The Hellfire Dragon's sword was so scared that its scalp went numb. Kid, you're looking for trouble? The monkey that you released probably has a strong background and is being targeted. Hurry up and run. Little White was also very nervous. He was also a monkey, and so was Sun Qitian. He naturally hoped that Sun Qitian could be free. Lin Xian's eyes instantly turned red. He did not recognize the huge hand, but how could he not recognize the black lotus in the palm? That was the red spider lily. It was the existence that sealed him. Damn it! This palm had the red spider lily. Who was it? Was it someone from the Purple Mansion? Someone from the Purple Mansion sealed Sun Qitian? Lin Xian was not sure, because he felt that the Purple Mansion did not have such a terrifying existence. Otherwise, when he and Heishan attacked the Purple Mansion, they would have been killed by such a huge tree. Damn it, he was not sure now, but it must be related to the red spider lily. Maybe the one who suppressed Sun Qitian and sealed him was the same person. Brother Monkey! Retreat quickly! Lin Xian roared. Sun Qitian roared. His eyes were red. Damn it, I, old Sun, am already out. I won't be suppressed anymore. He swung his iron staff again and attacked, but he was quickly pushed back again. Lin Xian took a deep breath and used Shadowless Heaven's net to rush forward. Kid, are you crazy? The Hellfire Dragon's sword's scalp went numb. Little White also cried out anxiously. At the same time, he was also worried about Lin Xian's safety. Lin Xian kept the two of them. His eyes were red, and he instantly came to Sun Qitian's side. He grabbed his shoulder. Brother Monkey, where there's life, there's hope. This palm is too scary. We can't fight against it now. Let's go. Run. He brought Sun Qitian and flew far away. Sun Qitian gritted his teeth. One day, I will kill my way to the 9 heavens and tear all of you into pieces. As he spoke, he turned and left. How could the huge hand let the two of them leave? It quickly chased after them. Chapter 50:10. After one strike, Sun Qitian's body split open again, and Lin Xian's body also cracked. Golden Saint blood dyed the 9 heavens red. Follow me, he directly opened the sword world. He brought Sun Qitian in. At the same time, he used the heaven-swallowing jar to devour everything. The huge hand that covered the sky descended and slapped the heaven-swallowing jar, sending it flying. The entire second level of hell was torn apart, and endless cracks appeared. The people on the second level quickly fled, and some of them were directly smashed into a bloody mist. The palm did not disappear. It was raised again, as if it was unwilling to give up and was still searching. At this time, crazy roars came from the lower levels of the 18th level of hell. There was even a sigh of an old man. If I don't enter hell, who will? A ray of golden light flew out and turned into a golden lotus, clashing with the black lotus. It seemed to be able to purify everything. The huge hand that covered the sky slowly disappeared and disappeared. The entire second level of hell finally quieted down. The creatures on the second level of hell were also terrified. Like Nero and the others, their bodies were trembling. What happened? Was it related to Lin Xian saving that monkey? They didn't know. It was safe. Inside the sword world, Lin Xian sensed the situation outside, and after realizing that the huge hand that covered the sky had left, he heaved a sigh of relief. The monkey also gritted his teeth. Damn it, he was almost suppressed again. He looked at Lin Xian and said, Brother Lin, if not for you, I would be in danger this time. I am willing to become sworn brothers with you. Are you willing? Of course I am. Lin Xian nodded. Good. Sun Qitian also laughed. Lin Xian was very much to his liking, and he had even saved him before, so he naturally hoped to have such a brother. Next, the two of them became sworn brothers. Sun Qitian was older, so Lin Xian called him Brother Monkey. Brother Monkey, where did you come from? Don't you have any memories at all? And what kind of person is your father? What is your own bloodline like? Lin Xian asked a series of questions. He was very curious about them. Sun Qitian shook his head. I don't remember, because I have been sealed for too long. My soul is a little damaged. That's why I can't remember a lot of things. I only know that I have to take revenge. Lin Xian said. I also know a bit about your enemy. There was a black lotus flower on the huge hand that hit you just now. He had once sealed me as well. Later on, he learned that it was called the red spider lily. It was an extremely terrifying existence. The only sect that used the red spider lily as a totem was the Purple Mansion sect. As for whether there were other sects, it was unknown for the time being. But now that he thought about it, it definitely had something to do with the Purple Mansion. Red spider lily, Purple Palace. Sun Qitian's eyes flickered. I know. After I leave hell, I won't let these people go. Brother Monkey, I know that you are eager to take revenge, but the Zifu realm is also a supreme existence. They are very mysterious. If you want to take revenge, you can't act rashly. It's best to increase your strength first. Haha, Brother Lin, don't worry. Now that I'm free, I won't be added to them again. By the way, where do you plan to go next? Was he going to leave hell directly? Lin Xian asked. Sun Qitian replied. No, I'm going to the third level of the underworld. You want to go to the third level? Lin Xian was stunned. If the second level was already so dangerous, the third level should be even more terrifying. Sun Qitian said. Brother Lin, you have a lot of trump cards. You can even dodge the huge hand that covers the sky. Although the third level is a bit dangerous for you, it definitely won't take your life. Who knows, it might be able to increase your strength again. Alright, Lin Xian was also a bold person, so after thinking for a moment, he immediately agreed. The two of them walked out of the sword world. Lin Xian kept the heaven-swallowing jar and prepared to leave. At this time, someone flew over from afar. Lin Woody, it's really you. You didn't die, that's great. Lin Xian turned his head and saw that it was Nai Luo and the others. Are you guys injured? Lin Xian asked. Nai Luo said. The hand that covered the sky was very far away from us. We only received a little impact and were not injured. Right, what was that big hand about? Also, did you save the person you wanted to save? You're talking about me, right? Sun Qitian walked out. Nai Luo and the others immediately held their breaths. They felt a huge pressure. It was as if the person standing in front of them was an extremely terrifying ancient demon god. You really managed to save it? They were too shocked. One had to know that when Sun Qitian was suppressed, a single iron rod was enough to sweep across all directions. Now that he was rescued, how terrifying was his strength. Also, why did that huge hand suddenly appear? One had to know that although the infernal realm was terrifying, such a thing had never happened before. Could it be that it had something to do with the monkey in front of them? All of this was a mystery to them. Lin Xian laughed. You don't have to worry, Brother Monkey is my brother, he won't hurt you guys. Brother? Nai Luo and the others were surprised. Didn't they not know each other before? How did they become good brothers in just a few years? Of course, Lin Xian did not explain. Instead, he said, Brother Monkey and I are going to the third level of hell. Do you guys want to go with us? With Brother He here, it shouldn't be a problem. The third level. Nai Luo and the others were shocked, then they sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Woody, do you know that the second level is already very dangerous? The third level is probably even scarier. An early-stage great sage is in danger of dying there, Even a mid-stage great sage can't sweep through everything. You have to be on guard there. Lin Xian nodded, he said. I know, but the second level has been destroyed by that huge hand. It can't be recovered in a short time, and we can't find anything good here. So, I'm going to the third level to take a look. Second brother, a bunch of cowards, what are you talking to them about? Sun Qitian frowned and said. Nai Luo was angry, he snorted. Who are you calling cowards? Although we're not as strong as you, it doesn't mean that we're cowards. The other members of the illusionary flower, Water Moon, discussed and then decided to go to the third level of hell. They had wanted to go for a long time, but they were not strong enough, so they hesitated. Now that they had Lin Xian and such a scary monkey to lead them, they decided to go for it. Good, your courage is not bad. Sun Qitian laughed, then waved his hand. Follow me. The group walked towards the passageway to the third level. There were even fewer people here. There were even fewer people in the third level than the second level, but every one of them was a top expert. Moreover, the third level was an extremely special place. There were many tombs in it. There were even some ancient and primordial experts buried here. Therefore, in theory, there were endless treasures, which attracted a group of adventurers. Lin Xian and the others were going to such a place this time. Chapter 50:11. The group passed through the passage and entered the third level of hell. It was even colder here. After arriving, Nero and the rest kept shivering. Even Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt as if his body was about to freeze. No wonder Nero and the rest didn't dare to come. Even a great sage intermediate could only survive here. It was difficult to dominate here. One would need more power. The only one who wasn't affected was Sun Qitian. His body shone brightly, and the cold aura couldn't get close to him. This place was extremely unusual. There were some ancient tombs that shouldn't be approached easily. Perhaps they would be killed by the array formation or the mysterious existence inside. Lin Xian and the others were shocked when they heard this. Nero was puzzled. Weren't you suppressed before? How did you know about the third level? Even Lin Xian was surprised. Sun Qitian said, I have the martial Dao Heavenly Eye. Although I'm suppressed, I can still see through everything. When I'm free, I'll use the martial Dao Heavenly Eye to see the third level. Can't I? Lin Xian was even more shocked. Sun Qitian's bloodline was too strong. The martial Dao Heavenly Eye didn't sound weaker than the Tianji Divine Eye. It was even stronger. It could see through a level of hell. Sun Qitian seemed to have guessed what Lin Xian was thinking. He smiled and said, Second brother, don't be envious. If you can really cultivate the Rinnegan, you can take the entire 18 levels of hell. Rinnegan? Nero and the rest were shocked. That was the legendary Supreme Eye. At a glance, could anyone really cultivate the Rinnegan in the 6 paths of reincarnation? Lin Xian also took a deep breath. He was also looking forward to it. Moreover, his right eye had also changed. The eye condensed the power of reincarnation and could form a reincarnation mountain. He wondered what kind of power it would have. The group set off. They didn't dare to seize some of the terrifying tombs. However, they wouldn't miss the ordinary tombs because these places were the source of treasures. After walking for about half a day, they found another group in front of them. There were about 10 people. His aura was incomparably powerful, much more powerful than the entire group. The team naturally saw Lin Xian as well, and they immediately stopped. The illusionary flower, reflected moon. Nero, you actually came as well. A surprised voice was heard. Nero turned around and said, So it's you. The man who stole was called Meng Yi. They belonged to Mengpa. Meng Yi said, Nai Luo, with your strength, you don't have the qualifications to come here. Nero rolled her eyes at him. It's none of your business. Can I come with an expert? Expert? Meng Yi was taken aback. Then, he looked at the people beside Nero. When he saw Sun Qitian, his pupils shrank. He felt a huge pressure from this person. This should be the expert that Meng Luo had mentioned. As for Lin Xian, he ignored him because Lin Xian's cultivation was the weakest among these people. He was not even a great sage. How could such a person dare to come here? Although you have experts, it's still too dangerous. Why don't you let them follow us? Meng Ye suggested. What do you think? Nero looked at Sun Qitian and Lin Xian and asked for their opinions. Lin Xian said, All right. They had just arrived here and were not too sure. It was naturally better to have someone to lead the way. Sun Qitian said, I don't have any opinions about joining forces. But when it comes to seizing treasures, it's up to each of us. Don't expect me to give in to you. His words were cold. This made Meng Po's people frown slightly. Meng Yi said, Oh, is that so? Then this condition couldn't be better. Although Sun Qitian was an expert, Meng Yi and the others were still not afraid of him. Even if there were treasures, they would probably have more to gain. Next, the two sides joined forces. This time, there were more than 20 people. In this place, they could be considered to be quite a big team. As they continued to walk into the third level, they saw many people one after another. Some people retreated when they saw more than 20 people together, fearing that they would be besieged. After all, not only were there treasure hunters here, but there were also people who killed and robbed. It seemed to be more convenient. After walking for half a day, a mountain peak appeared in front of them. The mountain peak was an independent existence surrounded by plains. It was very strange that it stood there like this. However, Sun Qitian's eyes lit up. This place was not ordinary. There might be a mausoleum here. Meng Yi and the others also narrowed their eyes. That was indeed the case. Generally, what was buried here was the terrain. It was very strange. Only experts could see through the mystery inside. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and looked forward. Although there was only one mountain peak, its aura was incomparably majestic, as if it was going to tear the world apart. Let's go and take a look. The group walked forward. When they got closer, they found that there was already a battle around the mountain peak. Two groups of people were fighting. It turned out that under the mountain peak, there was a cave residence. There were rays of light flashing inside. Seeing this scene, Sun Qitian laughed loudly. Second brother, let's go. As he said that, he rushed forward. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. However, he could imagine that after being suppressed for 2,000 years since birth, he was now free. Seeing these battles, he was naturally happy. Meng Yi and the others were shocked. Was this monkey really so powerful? They did not think so. Because the battle in front was very terrifying. When the people in front felt that there was a third party coming, they also frowned. Suddenly, they were shocked to see a lightning-like figure rushing over and directly killing his way into the cave residence. Then, he stretched out a monkey's paw and directly grabbed one of the treasure boxes. Not only that, the monkey was unwilling to give up and grabbed another 2 treasure boxes. This made the eyes of both sides turn red. They fought desperately but did not succeed. Now, someone came to take the fruits of their victory? Go to hell! Both sides stopped fighting and attacked Sun Qitian at the same time. Sigh, this guy is too reckless. Meng Po's people sighed. Even an expert could not be so arrogant. Which one of them who could come to the third level was weak? Let's see if you have the capital to be arrogant. Meng Yi also narrowed his eyes. Lin Xian was not worried at all. He was very clear about Sun Qitian's strength. He was an existence that dared to fight with the heavens. Nero and the others also had strange expressions. Sun Qitian could kill 2 blood-red bats with a single iron rod. Now that he was completely free, how terrifying was he? To be honest, they were very curious. At the same time, they were also worried for the people in front. They were afraid that those people in front were unlucky. Chapter 50:12. Go to hell. Someone slapped out a blood-red seal that could shake heaven and earth. The people on the other side transformed into terrifying phantoms of demon gods, looking down at the sky. The terrifying aura seemed to be about to destroy the world as they charged towards Sun Qitian. Sun Qitian shouted angrily, "You want to fight against me? Go to hell!" With a wave of his hand, an iron staff shone brightly and swept forward. It carried an eternal light. Boom! As the iron staff fell, the sky shattered, and the blood sea surged. The phantoms of the demon gods and the blood god's seal were shattered. The people on both sides also vomited blood and were sent flying backward. The 5 people at the front directly split open and turned into blood mist. So powerful! Meng Yi and Meng Po's people behind were all stunned. This attack was so powerful. This monkey is a bit too powerful. The pupils of Nero and the others shrank. It was indeed more powerful than they had imagined. The people on both sides were angry. Kill! They rushed over again, wanting to take revenge. Sun Qitian shouted coldly, "Are you still courting death? I'll fulfill your wishes." An even more terrifying light burst out from his body. He held the iron staff with both hands and swept everything. The whole sky was split open, the earth was shattered, and everything in the world turned into chaos. All the people who attacked him were all smashed into blood mist. With a sweep of the iron staff, he was invincible in the world. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 great saints had fallen. The rest of the people became extremely terrified. He's too powerful, and it's difficult to fight against him. What kind of existence is he? Run, run, run! The remaining people all ran away. In the process, Sun Qitian killed another 3 masters. The rest of the people fled with serious injuries and no longer dared to fight. For a moment, only Sun Qitian was left in the cave residence. Sun Qitian shouted coldly, and a large crack appeared in the iron staff formation. "A group of ants dare to fight with me. It's too terrifying." Meng Yi and the others' scalps went numb, and Nero and the others also turned pale. Lin Xian flew over and said, "Brother Monkey, well done." Whitey also applauded. "Yeah, you're so powerful. You're worthy of being a member of our monkey clan. Little one, do you want to learn a peerless supernatural power? I'll teach you." Sun Qitian looked at Whitey and laughed. When the others heard this, they were extremely envious. However, Little White thought about it seriously and said, "No, fighting and killing is too boring. You little brat, with your bloodline, even if you don't learn these divine abilities, no one can threaten you." Sun Qitian smiled. Then, he looked at Lin Xian and said, "Let's go in and take a look." Lin Xian nodded, and the 2 of them entered the cave. There was a profound coffin inside. Other than that, there were also some weapons, pills, and scrolls placed around the room. As for the weapons and scrolls, Sun Qitian directly ignored them. He didn't need them. His iron cudgel could sweep through everything, and peerless cultivation techniques were within his bloodline inheritance. Therefore, he was only interested in medicinal pills and natural treasures. Then, he put away all the pills. He stared at the blood coffin. "Second brother, quickly put away the other things. I want to open the coffin." Upon hearing this, Lin Xian was also taken aback. With a wave of his hand, he kept everything else. His heavenly secret divine eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. He frowned. "Brother Monkey, be careful. I feel that the person inside is still breathing." "Don't worry." Sun Qitian waved his iron cudgel and opened the blood coffin. Outside, Meng Yi, Nai Luo, and the others were shocked. They had just arrived, and before they could say anything, they saw the coffin open. An extremely terrifying murderous aura flew out from the coffin. Meng Yi exclaimed, "Oh no, he's still alive! Impossible! It's been a coffin for so many years. He should have turned into a zombie." In short, the other party was a great threat to them. A figure jumped out from inside. His body was rotten, and he looked very ferocious. "How dare you disturb my cultivation? Go to hell!" A pair of big hands grabbed at Lin Xian and Sun Qitian because they were the closest. "Second brother, be careful!" Sun Qitian roared and smashed his iron cudgel over. When it collided with the other party's claws, an earth-shattering sound was heard. Endless flames pierced through the 9 heavens. The pair of claws that were comparable to divine iron were broken in an instant. The bloody figure let out a painful roar and stared at Sun Qitian. He didn't expect the other party to be so powerful. "That iron cudgel is a divine weapon! He's mine!" A shocking light burst out from his eyes. Sun Qitian snorted coldly. "How dare you covet my weapon? You're courting death." He attacked again, waving his iron cudgel, shattering the sky. The bloody zombie roared crazily and fought with him. At the same time, the other hand, which was like divine metal, grabbed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian retreated and formed a seal with his palms. The lion's seal. With a strike, the golden lion's seal blocked the other party's palm. He retreated and crushed the ground. "How terrifying!" Lin Xian was surprised. As expected of the 3rd level. "The people here are really terrifying. They're even more terrifying than the average Great Sage Intermediate." He was shocked, but the bloody zombie was even more shocked. It was understandable that Sun Qitian was powerful. After all, he had a divine weapon in his hand, and his bloodline was extraordinary. He could feel a terrifying power. However, how could the kid in front of him compete with him? Although he was pushed back, the other party was not injured. "This kid seems to be just a Saint King. He's not even a great sage. His physique is already so strong. What kind of monster is he? What kind of changes have happened outside during the years that I've been cultivating and sleeping?" It was hard for him to imagine that a Saint King was so terrifying. Boom! His arm attacked again. Lin Xian used the lion's seal and shadowless heaven's net to fight against it. Although he was suppressed and at a disadvantage, it was shocking enough. Oh no! Nero, who was outside, was stunned. Meng Yi and the others were even more shocked. To be honest, among these people, they ignored Lin Xian the most. In their opinion, Lin Xian should only be following the monkey. His strength was not worth mentioning at all. But now, they realized that they were wrong, very wrong. This kid was a top genius. Lin Xian was the best explanation of what it meant to be a genius. He had the weakest cultivation, but he could exert the strongest power. This guy was comparable to a young great emperor. Countless people were shocked. The bloody zombie was even more furious. It was fine if it could not take down a monkey. But it could not even take down a human ant? Damn it! An endless bloody vortex suddenly appeared on its bloody palm. It turned into a bloody dragon, roaring ferociously and charging over. Oh no, it's a fatal blow. Nero, Meng Yi, and the others were terrified. They were worried about Lin Xian again. Lin Xian was already very strong to be able to survive until now. However, if he did not have any other trump cards, it would be difficult to resist this move. Sun Qitian also shouted angrily. "How dare you hurt my second brother? I'll destroy your soul." Chapter 50-13. In the face of such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian was still not afraid. An extremely terrifying light burst out from his eyes. Especially his right eye, which condensed into a mountain peak. Reincarnation Mountain. A mountain peak pressed down on the left front, instantly enveloping the opponent's palm. Boom! Boom! An earth-shattering sound was heard, and the sky fell and the earth cracked. The iron-blooded palm was directly suppressed. The blood-colored zombie also fell to the ground, roaring crazily. There was a trace of horror in his eyes. What was going on? This Saint King level and actually knew such a thing. He felt that half of his body was suppressed, and he could not exert any strength at all. The others were even more frightened. What a terrifying reincarnation aura. Nero and the others were even more surprised. Was this the result of Lin Xian's 5 years of cultivation? It was unbelievable. Sun Qitian also narrowed his eyes. He could see that this mountain peak was very similar to the one that suppressed him. Obviously, the mountain peak that suppressed him had become Lin Xian's ultimate technique. He smiled. His second brother was extremely talented and powerful, so he did not have to worry at all. Thinking of this, he waved his iron staff again and attacked. Under the joint efforts of him and Lin Xian, the blood-colored zombie was directly beaten into a bloody mist. There were still some treasures in the blood-colored coffin, which were also divided between him and Lin Xian. The surrounding people were incomparably shocked. Even such a powerful existence had been destroyed? It was too terrifying. However, people like Nero and the others were excited. With such a powerhouse taking the lead, they would definitely be able to find the treasures. Next, they would definitely be able to find treasures. Next, they attacked again. This time, it was not only Lin Xian and Sun Qitian. Nero and the others also obtained some treasures. 10 days later, they came to a canyon, where there was also a cave residence. Obviously, countless treasures were buried here. In addition to Lin Xian and the others, a group of people came from the opposite side of the canyon. There were about 40 people in this group, twice as many as Lin Xian's group. The aura on their bodies was extremely terrifying. These people were riding on a chariot. There was a blood-colored flag on the chariot. Was it the Blood God Alliance? Meng Yi and the others frowned. This was also an organization in hell, and it was stronger than catoptric deflection. Even if Meng Yi and the others saw them before, they would have to take a detour. He didn't expect to meet them here. The members of the Blood God Alliance also looked over. Were there only 20 people? You're no match for us. If you scram now, we'll spare your lives. Otherwise, all of you will die without a burial place. The other party's cold voice rang out, causing Nero and the others to furrow their brows. Sun Qitian sneered. Threatening old Sun? Humph, I think you guys are the ones who don't know what's good for you. I'm not leaving today. I want to see what you can do to me, old Sun. Sun Qitian snorted coldly and waved his iron staff, tearing the world apart. The faces of the Blood God Alliance's members sank. Did they not know what death was? The man in the lead waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Let's go to the cave abode below to retrieve the treasure." Soon 3 figures descended from the sky and went to the canyon. They worked together to bring a treasure box. However, halfway there, the treasure box disappeared into thin air. Damn it, what's going on? They were shocked. At the next moment, they saw a little monkey with a bowl on its head. Their treasure box was in the bowl. Damn monkey, how dare you! One of them slashed out a blood-red sword chi, while the other 2 reached out their palms to grab Little White. You're courting death! Sun Qitian shouted angrily when he saw that. He waved his iron staff and cut the world apart, turning the palms of the 2 people into blood mist. The 2 of them screamed and retreated. As for the third person, Little White turned around and said while holding the purple gourd, "Gourd, please turn around." The gourd cracked open and flew out. A sword light directly split the head of the person. Little White flew back and opened the treasure box. There was a piece of jade inside. It was pure white and shone brightly. Little White took a bite, and its big eyes narrowed into the shape of a crescent moon. A 50,000-year-old jade was definitely a top-notch treasure. Seeing that, the members of the Blood God Alliance on the other side had extremely ugly expressions. That was an extremely important thing to them. But now, it was snatched away halfway. He even started eating right in front of them. Was he challenging them? Kill them. The leader waved his hand, and 10 people went down to the cave abode to continue snatching treasures. The other 30 people charged toward Lin Xian and the others. It seemed that they did not intend to let Lin Xian and the others survive. Sun Qitian shouted coldly and jumped into the canyon as well. Get lost! The iron staff directly shattered the mountain gate of the cave abode. Then, he charged in. A great battle broke out below. Lin Xian was also facing a crisis. Everyone, fight with all your strength. Meng Yi took a deep breath. Nero and the others were also facing a great enemy. They had no choice. The other party had more people than them. Now that Sun Qitian had gone to the cave abode to snatch treasures, they could only rely on themselves. Fortunately, Lin Xian was still here. Lin Xian formed a seal with his palm and cast a lion that swept across heaven and earth. The two people who flew over were immediately sent flying. At the same time, Nero cast the bridge of helplessness to affect their souls. Meng Yi picked up a bowl of soup and poured it into the world. Granny Ming's soup was said to be a mysterious existence that could forget everything. It was very strange. At this moment, the people of the Blood God Alliance were also constantly retreating. However, these people were not weak either. Someone cast out a terrifying blood-colored flood dragon that covered the sky and earth, sweeping across tens of thousands of miles. They charged forward. Someone formed 81 snow mountains and pressed down from the sky. Some people even activated the war chariot law, and various attacks came at them. A great battle broke out. Nero and the others were pale and kept retreating. The other party had too many people. However, at this time, Lin Xian made his move. Lin Xian used the Hellfire Dragon Sword, Azura Sword Art. With a slash of the sword, 3 heads flew. At the same time, the seal of the Fearless Lion was opened and closed. With every strike, a terrifying golden lion appeared and suppressed all directions. At the same time, he activated the Heavenly Secret Divine Eyes and a reincarnation mountain pressed down. In the blink of an eye, 3 people were killed, and the other 7 were injured and retreated. In an instant, the pressure on Nero, Meng Yi, and the others was reduced by a lot. Damn it, they had an expert on their side. The people of the Blood God Alliance stared at Lin Xian in an instant, feeling incredulous. They had been staring at Nero and Meng Yi. They could see that these 2 people were very powerful, and their divine abilities were also very terrifying. But who would have thought that the strongest one was a sage king? If they did not experience it personally, they would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. After killing this kid, the others were nothing to be afraid of. In an instant, these people all charged at Lin Xian. In the sky, 81 blood-colored mountains swept across heaven and earth, completely enveloping Lin Xian. The mountains around Lin Xian were constantly shattered. Chapter 50-14. Lin Xian also felt a huge pressure. He pushed his body to the limit. He punched in all directions, making earth-shattering sounds, but he was still forced back. He had no choice. The power represented by the 81 mountains was too powerful. The person who attacked was very terrifying, but it was impossible for him to kill Lin Xian. At the critical moment, Lin Xian used Shadowless Heaven's net. His body disappeared and appeared on the other side. "Kid, your movement technique is not bad, but can you escape?" The 4 people charged over. The auras of these 4 people were equally terrifying. One of them actually knew Shadowless Heaven's net. Lin Xian was really stunned. It seemed that this person was a top-notch assassin. That person had a killing sword in his hand. There was blood dripping from it. The surrounding mountains of corpses and seas of blood were extremely terrifying. Go to hell. He did not release any aura before, but at this moment, his killing intent was shocking. Azura sword skill. When the sword slashed out, Lin Xian's glabella split open. He felt his hair stand on end. So terrifying. It seems that there are still experts in hell. He struck out with the lion imprint to defend himself. The golden lion imprint blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it rushed over. It collided with the sword. The golden lion was torn apart, and Lin Xian's palm was pierced. However, his physique was extremely strong. In an instant he caught the sword. "Damn it!" that person shouted angrily. Even a mid-stage supreme sage would be split open by this sword. However, the other party's physique was only injured. It was not split open. He wanted to retract his sword and attack again. However, at that moment, Lin Xian made his move. Azura sword skill, the first sword, he also unleashed a sure kill move. Buzz! Oh no, that person quickly dodged. However, its body was cleaved into 2 halves by the sword. Ah! He screamed in horror and wanted to retreat. Lin Xian charged over with his sword. The hellfire on it burned fiercely. "Save me!" At that moment, he shouted angrily. Someone came over from afar. He was riding a chariot. He charged forward and blocked the hellfire that filled the sky. The chariot was an extremely powerful saint weapon. It had saved the saint of slaughter. Then, a terrifying light shot out from the chariot. 4 blood-colored demonic beasts covered the sky and covered the earth. Lin Xian snorted and waved his hellfire dragon sword again. A long sword swept out in all directions. A dragon's roar rang out between heaven and earth, turning into a dragon's shadow that cut through the 9 heavens. The bodies of the 4 demonic beasts were being torn apart. Lin Xian let out a loud roar and punched out in all directions, directly tearing the entire world into 2 halves. The golden chariot was sent flying. Damn it, how could he be so powerful? The expert in the war chariot was injured, his expression ugly. "Use the corpse poison we got," he roared madly. Someone took out a red gourd. After opening it, a terrifying red mist filled the air. This was an extremely potent poison that they had obtained from a cave abode. It was the poison of the corpse of a great sage. Lin Xian felt that his 9-yang divine body was about to rot. He was terrified and quickly retreated. A huge dragon sword aura appeared on his body and slashed in all directions. At the same time, the sky-devouring jar was thrown out, turning into countless vortexes. It swallowed all the poison. How was that possible? The people of the Blood God Alliance were stunned. The other party definitely couldn't resist this poison. They would wait until these people were seriously injured. At that time, they would be able to get rid of these enemies effortlessly. But now, their poison had disappeared before it could even take effect. Damn it, it's this kid again. They stared at Lin Xian and gritted their teeth. The other party had too many trump cards. They were endless. At this moment, a miserable cry came from the canyon. Then, someone escaped with injuries all over his body. The people of the Blood God Alliance were shocked. What was going on? Was there a problem with their treasure hunt too? They had sent out 4 people, but the other party only sent out 1 person. How could they not win? Lin Xian and the others heaved a sigh of relief. The corners of their mouths curled up. Great. It seemed that Sun Qitian's side was going smoothly. However, not long after, Sun Qitian flew out. His body was shrouded in a terrifying light, forming auspicious clouds that rose into the sky. "Let's go, it seems that something incredible has appeared," Sun Qitian said as he fled into the distance. Lin Xian and the others were also stunned. Sun Qitian was so terrifying. What kind of existence was it that even he was afraid of? Lin Xian and the others didn't know, but they still quickly retreated. Even Nai Luo, Meng Yi, and the others retreated into the distance. The people of the Blood God Alliance didn't retreat. They were preparing to counterattack. However, at this moment, a coffin flew out from the bottom of the canyon. After it opened, a figure walked out. This figure was covered in a shroud. Only a pair of cold eyes appeared. Damn it, what is this thing? The people of the Blood God Alliance haven't left yet. The powerhouse driving the chariot shouted angrily and rushed over. The top assassin from before used the Shura sword again and attacked from behind. 1 from the front, and 1 from the back. This was a fatal blow. However, the shroud enlarged and covered the 2 of them. In the next moment, the 2 of them screamed miserably as their bodies turned into blood mist and dripped from the sky. A strange laughter was heard, making people's scalps tingle. In a hurry, they saw that it was a woman's face. Half of it was rotten. It was extremely shocking. What is this thing? The people of the Blood God Alliance went crazy and wanted to escape. However, wherever the shroud passed, no one could escape. At the back, Nai Luo and the others saw this scene and their scalps tingled. It was too terrifying. Fortunately, Sun Qitian reminded them, otherwise, they would be in danger. They could see that the dozens of people of the Blood God Alliance were finished. None of them could survive. Sun Qitian led them and retreated quickly. They asked what was going on. Sun Qitian said, I didn't know that there would be a coffin after I opened it. After I opened it, I found this thing. That tattered cloth was too scary. It made my hair stand on end, so I turned around and ran away. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. Sun Qitian's decisiveness really surprised them. Lin Xian said, I know what that is. That's a shroud. It's something that covers the corpse of a great emperor. What? It covers the corpse of a great emperor? Nai Luo and the others felt their scalps tingle. Anything related to a great emperor was definitely terrifying. Not to mention the shroud that only belonged to a great emperor. It was even more terrifying. Sun Qitian was also terrified. No wonder. I was wondering why I felt my hair stand on end. Although he was strong, he couldn't compete with a great emperor. Only a great emperor's item could compete with the shroud of a great emperor. For example, only a few extreme weapons or the great dragon sword soul could do it. The others couldn't withstand it at all. Therefore, Lin Xian knew that the people of the Blood God Alliance were doomed. However, what surprised him was that the shroud was in Luo Shao's hands. The rotten person from before should be Luo Shao. She actually ran to the 3rd level and ran into the coffin. It was really strange. Who was this woman? Chapter 50-15. As for the identity of the shroud and the Rakshasa, everything was a mystery. Lin Xian did not think about it. They left the area completely. Then, they walked in another direction. After walking for about 5 days, they stopped. There seemed to be a broken ruin in front of them. There was no sound around. Sun Qitian said, Let's go and take a look. Maybe there are some treasures. However, Meng Yi shook his head. No, we can't go there. We can't go there. He seemed to be very frightened. Lin Xian asked, What's going on? Sun Qitian said, When did you become so timid? I'm here to protect you. Meng Yi shook his head. No, it has nothing to do with being timid. Nero was also puzzled. What do you know? She knew that Meng Yi and the others came to the 3rd level a long time ago. So, they knew a lot about the situation of the 3rd level. Meng Yi said, The ruin in front is very strange. It's very famous in the 3rd level. I've only heard about it, but I don't dare to go near it. This is the closest I've come. What's so magical about this place? Lin Xian was also surprised. Meng Yi said, This place is very strange. No one who has gone in can come out. Many people from Meng Po's lineage have gone in. The oldest one was a person from 5,000 years ago. He didn't come out after 5,000 years. We once suspected that he had died, but later we found that his soul jade tablet was still there. You have to know that if this thing is there, it means that the person is not dead. But he never appeared. Sometimes, when you stand in the distance, you can see some figures floating back and forth in the ruins in front of you at night. But they can't get out of this ancient ruin. So, over time, everyone knew that this ruin was very strange. There's a mysterious power. Those who go in will get lost and can't come out again. There's such a thing. Lin Xian was also surprised. Those who could enter the 3rd level of the underworld were definitely not weak. But no one could come out successfully. It was needless to say how dangerous it was. Sun Qitian frowned. Is it so powerful? I don't believe it. I have to experience it for myself. He carried the iron rod and strode inside. Meng Yi sighed. I've said my piece. We won't be going there again. Goodbye. After he finished speaking, he led Meng Po's group away. What do you plan to do? Lin Xian looked at Nero and the others. Nero said, We will not go in either. Since it was so dangerous, they would definitely not walk right into the trap. Lin Xian said, All right, then we'll split up for now. You guys have to be careful. You can join forces with Meng Yi and the others. If you really can't do it, you can return to the 2nd level. Nero was shocked. Could it be that you want to go in as well? Lin Xian nodded. I also want to see how magical it is. After saying that, he waved his hand and followed Sun Qitian inside. Good brother, you won't be in any danger if you follow me. Sun Qitian laughed. Lin Xian nodded, and the two of them entered the ancient ruins together. When they stepped onto the stone platform of the ancient ruins, a ball of energy enveloped them. In the next moment, Lin Xian realized that Sun Qitian's figure had disappeared. Sun Qitian naturally noticed this too. He shouted angrily, "Brother Lin, where are you?" There was a bright light in his eyes. His martial Tao heavenly eye wanted to see through everything. However, he realized that Lin Xian was nowhere to be seen. What was going on? He used his iron rod to bombard the void, creating countless cracks, but there was still no sign of him. Lin Xian also realized that he could not see Sun Qitian with his heavenly secret divine eyes. It was indeed strange. Lin Xian was surprised. No wonder Meng Yi and the others did not dare to come in at all. He entered with Sun Qitian, but he could not find any trace of him. Forget it, he was not too worried. After all, Sun Qitian's bloodline and trump card were too powerful. There was no need to be too worried. Let's see how magical this place is first. Lin Xian walked carefully. Suddenly, he realized that the scenery around him seemed to have changed. A new world appeared in front of him, and there were many figures. These figures all had powerful auras and terrifying figures. What was this? Lin Xian was on guard. He wanted to hide, but he realized that those people did not seem to see him at all. He even tried to attack them, but he realized that he could not attack them. Were they illusions? Lin Xian was really surprised. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. It's useless. You can't attack them. Because this was something that happened 100,000 years ago. Who was it? Lin Xian jumped in fright and turned around to look. He saw an old man looking at him coldly. This old man's body was withered, but his eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Lin Xian was secretly alert. The old man said, "Don't be afraid. We are the same. Welcome to this land of despair." Lin Xian frowned. Land of despair? What did that mean? The old man said, "I have been here for 5,000 years, and I can't get out of this place. If this is not a land of despair, then what is?" Lin Xian frowned when he heard that. Why couldn't he get out? Wasn't the way back? Lin Xian turned around and was stunned. He realized that there was no way back. There had already been a change, forming a new world. The old man said, "If you don't come after seeing it, you won't be able to get out for the rest of your life." Lin Xian's face was cold. He did not believe it. An intense light burst out from his eyes. He wanted to get out. However, he really couldn't find the way back. I don't believe it. It must be an illusion. It destroyed everything. He used the power of reincarnation, wanting to penetrate everything. However, it did not seem to be an illusion. He still couldn't find the way. He even summoned the Void Beast, and used the power of space to tear open a space tunnel. He wanted to escape, but it was useless. The old man said, "Don't try. For 5,000 years we have used all kinds of methods. If you could get out, you would have done so long ago. You are a young man. No matter how many methods you have, it will be difficult for you to get out." Lin Xian's face was cold. It was indeed strange. Could this old man be the powerhouse of Meng Po's lineage from 5,000 years ago that Meng Yi had mentioned? The other party was indeed trapped here. He said, "Senior, what's going on? Also, what's with these illusions in front? What do they mean by 100,000 years ago?" The old man sighed. This was the living scene of the Azura clan 100,000 years ago. These ruins should also be the ruins of the Azura clan. It left behind the scenes of 100,000 years ago. Those who came in could see it, but there was no way out. We once guessed that the way out was in the scenes of 100,000 years ago. However, we still couldn't find it. Lin Xian was surprised when he heard that. We? Could it be that there were others besides this old man? That's right. The old man nodded. Other than you and me, there were many others. All of them were top-notch geniuses and unparalleled experts. They all thought that they were unparalleled in the world and did not care about anything. That was why they dared to take the risk and come in. However, they all failed. Chapter 50:16. Let's go, I'll bring you there. The old man brought Lin Xian over. Soon, Lin Xian found some people. There were quite a few of them. Some were gathered together, looking at the Shura clan's life. They seemed to be trying to figure something out. Some had already gone crazy. Their hair was messy and they were in a daze. Some of them had already given up on themselves, sitting there cross-legged in a daze. Some were trying to accumulate strength and cultivate silently. Some were even hallucinating. They felt like they were living 100,000 years ago. Lin Xian was silent. He felt a pressure. These people were the top group of people in the past few thousand years, but they had been reduced to such a state by the ruins. Could it be that he had to stay here in the future? He didn't want that. Lin Xian even used the power of the Dragon Sword Soul. The Dragon Sword Soul could destroy everything. He wanted to destroy these images and leave. But he found that the Dragon Sword Soul was not very useful. This mysterious power was too strange. It was not afraid of the Dragon Sword Soul's power. Then what was this? Damn kid, why did you come here? When Lin Xian was alone, the Hellfire Dragon Sword flew out. He was stunned when he saw the scene. Where was this? Wasn't this the Shura clan? The Xiu clan should not be here anymore. Why was there still here? The Hellfire Dragon was stunned. Lin Xian told it what happened. The Hellfire Dragon was stunned. You knew it was dangerous, and you still dared to come. Are you crazy? Lin Xian said. Aren't people curious? I came here to train and improve my strength. How could I not come to see such a place? Do you know anything about this place? Hearing this, the Hellfire Dragon Sword flew in a circle and said, Damn it. Could it be the power of time? The power of time? Lin Xian was shocked. The Hellfire Dragon Sword said, Yes, the power of time. Among the thousands of laws, there was a saying that space was king and time was king. The space law was already shocking. The time law was even scarier. It could be said that it was unparalleled. However, the time law was too rare. It was very rare to see it. He didn't expect that there would be the law of time in this ancient ruin. After Lin Xian heard this, he was also surprised. Are you saying that these scenes from 100,000 years ago were left behind because of the laws of time? That should be the case. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to still have it. You should have heard of the 5 swords of the world, right? The great dragon sword's attack was unparalleled, the devouring sword devoured all things, and the heavenly punishment sword possessed all kinds of heaven and earth anomalies. The 6 paths of reincarnation of the Samsara sword. There was also the space-time space, which possessed the power of time and space. It was extremely mysterious. Kid, you better pray that this place has nothing to do with Xikongjian. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving this place for the rest of your life. The more the Hellfire Dragon Sword spoke, the more depressed it became. How did I fall into your hands? He realized that every time Lin Xian did something, it was too shocking and shocking. Lin Xian was also surprised. The sword of space-time. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. After all, this place did not fear his great dragon sword soul at all. Perhaps only the power of the space-time sword, which was also one of the 5 swords of the world, possessed such power. But how was he going to leave? Or was there a chance to obtain the power of time here? Next, Lin Xian began to search for all kinds of possibilities. In the end, he found nothing. However, on this day, he was stunned. He realized that the Azura clan had encountered a world-ending disaster. The sun and moon of the entire world were in the same sky. A huge crack appeared in the sky, and countless terrifying energy poured down. The entire world was torn apart. The Azura clan fell in droves. What kind of power was this? The Hellfire Dragon's sword also saw it. He exclaimed. The power of Heaven's punishment. Damn it, were the Azura clan killed by the Heaven's punishment sword? This was an earth-shattering secret. Who would have thought that this scene would be completely recorded, and even appear here? However, it seemed that those who saw it would never be able to leave, so the secret couldn't be spread. The power of Heaven's punishment sword? It actually destroyed an extremely terrifying ancient clan. Lin Xian looked at this scene and was extremely shocked. Who had the Heaven's punishment sword? Why did they attack the Azura clan? The power of Heaven's punishment sword disappeared, and the Azura clan was dying. At this time, Lin Xian realized that a Azura clan girl had fallen beside him. At this moment, the girl's eyes were filled with despair. Who can help me? Damn it, I want to help you, but how? The Hellfire Dragon's sword roared unhappily. The girl suddenly turned her head and stared at the Hellfire Dragon's sword. Do you really want to help me? The Hellfire Dragon's sword was shocked and flew away. Heavens, is he talking to me? He's been dead for 100,000 years. Is he talking to me? He's really crazy. Lin Xian's hair stood on end. It can't be a coincidence, can it? He asked the girl again, but found that the girl was already dead. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. The Hellfire Dragon's sword also flew over and looked at this scene. Illusion, it must be an illusion. Lin Xian said, maybe he's really talking to you? The Hellfire Dragon's sword's hair stood on end. Kid, don't scare me. Although I'm a sword, I can be scared too. Lin Xian frowned. How mysterious is the power of time. We can see what happened 100,000 years ago. Do you think the people from 100,000 years ago can sense our existence? This. The Hellfire Dragon's sword was stunned. He said, how would I know? I've never felt the power of time, and I can't answer you. What did you find? At this time, the elder from Mengpo's line walked over and asked with a frown. Lin Xian said, Senior, will this scene appear again? The elder looked at the destroyed world in front of him and said, it will appear every once in a while. This scene is repeated, and I'm tired of it. Lin Xian was shocked. Didn't you see anyone begging you for help? The elder said, beg me? Who? Were they from the Azura clan? How can I help with something that happened 100,000 years ago? After saying that, he shook his head. Young man, have you gone crazy? Lin Xian frowned too. He even thought it was ridiculous. Yes, something that happened 100,000 years ago. How could they help? However, he still decided to try, so he didn't move. He continued to stand there and wait. He wanted to wait for this scene to appear again. He wanted to wait for the Azura clan girl to ask him for help again. Lin Xian waited for a year. After a year, the same scene appeared again. The heavenly punishment sword destroyed the world. The Azura clan was torn apart and destroyed. At the place where Lin Xian was, a girl fell down with blood all over her body. She looked up at the sky with despair in her eyes. Who can help me? Chapter 50-17. Looking at this scene, Lin Xian took a deep breath. It was the same scene from a year ago. This time, he would not miss it. He said, I am willing to help you. Really? The woman turned her head to look at the void. It seemed like she was looking at Lin Xian. Lin Xian's heart was beating wildly at this moment. He was in a daze. But he quickly regained his senses and said, it's true, I am willing to help you. Lin Xian actually wanted to say, what should he do, but he did not say it. He was afraid that the woman would refuse. The woman laughed bitterly. If only I didn't let my brother go to the Valley of Despair 3 years ago, that would be great. I can stop him. I can bring your brother back safely from the Valley of Despair. Lin Xian said this even though he didn't have much hope for it. But after saying that, he felt his body being enveloped by a mysterious aura. The next moment, he disappeared. Damn, what's going on? The Hellfire Dragon saw this scene and roared crazily. But he realized that Lin Xian's figure seemed to have really disappeared. When Lin Xian regained his senses, he realized that his surroundings had changed. It was no longer a broken wall, nor was it a scene, but a real world. He realized that many eyes were staring at him, with disdain and sneers in their eyes. Lin Xian was shocked. The people of the Shura clan, he could really feel the aura of these people. What's going on? The Shura clan had been destroyed 100,000 years ago. How could he still feel it? Could it be that she had returned to 100,000 years ago? This was a very bold idea, but he could not help but doubt it. Because the woman of the Shura clan, her last desperate request, Lin Xian agreed. Then, he was enveloped by a force. Who knew if it was the power of time, bringing him back to 100,000 years ago? Why was it so dreamy? Lin Xian's mind was in a daze. And he realized that only he had come. The Hellfire Dragon's sword beside him did not seem to have come. On the other hand, the Sword World was still there, and Little White was still sleeping soundly inside the Sword World, which made him heave a sigh of relief. He wondered if the Hellfire Dragon's sword and the people trapped in the ruins would be able to see him if he appeared 100,000 years ago. If they saw it, these people would probably be scared silly. When Lin Xian thought of this, he quickly changed his appearance. Then, he calmed down. Such a scene had occurred because he had promised the despairing woman that he would save her younger brother. At the very least, it would allow his younger brother to live for another 3 years. Although he knew that it was possible, his younger brother would eventually be destroyed along with the Azura clan. However, since he had agreed to the other party's request, he had to bring it back. It was said that her younger brother had gone to some valley of despair. First, he had to find that woman. And then find out who his younger brother was? Only then could he help his younger brother. Lin Xian's eyes lit up and he secretly used his Tianji ability to find that woman. Fortunately, that woman was very special. Because she was incomparably beautiful, she was also very outstanding in the Azura clan. Therefore, it didn't take long for him to find it. That woman's identity was not simple. She was actually the princess of the Azura clan. Then, her younger brother should be the prince of the Azura clan. No wonder she could talk to him 100,000 years later. It was obvious that her identity was different. The Azura princess. Taking advantage of the opportunity when the other party went out to play, Lin Xian directly intercepted them halfway. Countless powerful Azura clan experts appeared around the war chariot. They held swords and sabers in their hands and stared at Lin Xian. "Who are you? How dare you be so rude to our princess?" Angry shouts sounded one after another. Lin Xian felt his blood boil. This was the Azura clan. They were too strong. "Azura of Hell, you really live up to your name," Lin Xian said. "Everyone, don't misunderstand. I don't have any bad intentions. I'm here to find the Azura prince. I heard that he's the princess' younger brother. It's just that I don't know where he is recently, so I'm here to disturb the princess." A beautiful figure walked down from the war chariot. She glanced at Lin Xian and said, "My younger brother went to the Misty Rain Tower. If you want to find him, go to the Misty Rain Tower. Oh right, if you find him, tell him to come back quickly. Father and mother miss him very much. Tell him to come back quickly." "Don't worry, princess. I'll definitely tell him." "Where is the Misty Rain Tower?" The Azura princess threw a token over and said, "Bring him to the Misty Rain Tower." "Yes." Then, he looked at Lin Xian and said, "Follow me." He brought Lin Xian into the distance, and arrived at an ancient city. There was an altar and a teleportation array. He said, "Go up. I'll teleport you to the Misty Rain Tower." Lin Xian walked up and was teleported away. When he reappeared, he was already in the endless void. Lin Xian said, "Could it be wrong? Shouldn't the Misty Rain Tower be in some city?" However, he soon realized that it wasn't. In the starry sky near him, there was an ancient tower floating in the universe. It was surrounded by misty rain. Lin Xian was dumbfounded. It was unbelievable that such a thing could exist. Was this the Misty Rain Tower? Lin Xian walked forward. He realized that there were many war chariots and spirit boats passing by quickly and stopping in the starry sky. Then, powerful figures walked out one after another and entered the Misty Rain Tower. From the looks of it, this should be a place where top experts and geniuses gathered. Lin Xian also walked in. Who are you? He was unfamiliar. Just as Lin Xian was about to enter, a man walked out. Instantly, he stared at Lin Xian. His eyes were like two balls of divine fire that could see through everything. Even Lin Xian's heart was pounding. Lin Xian said coldly, "Who are you? Do you know everyone here?" That man said, "I know everyone who frequents here. I can tell you their family and background. However, I've never seen you before and I can't sense your aura. Which family are you from? Which family are you from?" Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect to be targeted the moment he arrived. Moreover, he was being targeted by someone from 100,000 years ago. But so what? He came from the future. He wanted to see how these people would deal with him. The tall man's eyes were filled with arrogance. "My name is Zhan Tian. I'm from the Purple Mansion." Lin Xian's pupils shrank. Someone from the Purple Mansion. The Purple Mansion from 100,000 years ago hadn't been destroyed yet. Moreover, they had such an expert. "Tell me your background." Zhan Tian's eyes shone with a terrifying light. Lin Xian thought, should I tell him or pretend to be someone else? After thinking about it, he didn't say anything. Instead, he stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "I'm not someone you can imagine." Deliberately mystifying. Zhan Tian was instantly enraged. His face darkened. Was he looking down on him? However, he didn't know that Lin Xian wasn't lying. Lin Xian was someone the other party couldn't imagine. Because Lin Xian came from 100,000 years in the future. Chapter 50:18. When Warsky heard this, he was completely enraged. An extremely terrifying power erupted from his body. He was born to stand, as if he was a god of war. He took a step forward, causing the surrounding area to collapse. He stared at Lin Xian and said coldly, "I'll give you one last chance. Tell me who you are. Otherwise, I'll send you to hell." Lin Xian sneered and didn't answer. To be honest, he also wanted to fight with the powerhouse from 100,000 years ago. He wanted to see how strong he was. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Zhan Tian snorted coldly and pointed his finger forward. Finger of war. This finger cut through the void like a golden divine sword, dazzling and eye-catching. It directly attacked Lin Xian's forehead. This power was really too strong. Everywhere it passed, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Nothing could stop it. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly and his body also erupted with endless light. He was like the sun god of war in a painting as he slapped out with his palm. The golden palm descended like the sun, and its terrifying power was extremely strong. The two collided, and a terrifying aura spread out in all directions. Endless large cracks appeared, and the entire sky was completely turned into chaos. "You can actually block it?" Warsky was stunned. He originally thought that this finger would definitely kill Lin Xian. However, he didn't expect Lin Xian to really block it. This was interesting. He stretched out his finger again, and the aura on it became even sharper. Obviously, he didn't use all of his strength previously. This time, he would use all of his strength. However, at this moment, a shocking aura came from afar. An endless storm swept out in all directions, followed by a cold snort. This voice was like thunder, and it charged towards Warsky. Warsky ignored Lin Xian and looked up at the sky. At the same time, the power in his body also erupted. The god of war appeared again and swept through the 9 heavens. The two collided. The power was even more terrifying. Lin Xian kept retreating. He used Shadowless Heaven's net and disappeared without a trace like smoke, dodging these attacks. He stood in the air, his brows furrowed tightly. So strong. This war sky was very powerful. At the same time, he was shocked. Another expert had arrived, and this time, he directly charged towards War Sky. Who was it? Lin Xian's eyes flashed with golden light as he looked up into the sky. In the sky, a man wearing battle armor descended from the sky. This man's aura was extremely terrifying. He held a battle spear in his hand. His face was handsome, and there was a demonic mark between his eyebrows that looked like a closed eye. When he arrived, he first glanced at Lin Xian and revealed a trace of surprise. Then, he looked at War Sky and said coldly, "How dare you appear here? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Yang Xianxing, you think too highly of yourself. Who do you think you are?" Your heavenly court simply can't compare to our Zifu palace. After Lin Xian heard this, he sucked in a breath of cold air. People from the heavenly court. This man in battle armor was actually an expert from the heavenly court. It was truly unbelievable. 100,000 years ago, the heavenly court and the purple palace still existed. It seemed that at this time, the two sides were sworn enemies. The two in front of him exchanged a few words and directly started fighting. War Sky was very powerful. He was like a god of war, and every move of his carried the power of heaven and earth. Lin Xian was also shocked. However, the armored man, Yang Xianxing, was still not afraid at all. He waved the battle spear in his hand, and with endless laws he slashed forward. The two sides fought fiercely. The battle between the two had long alarmed everyone. In front, the people in the Misty Rain Tower also walked out. There were even people standing at the windows of the Misty Rain Tower and looking outside. Sounds of discussion could be heard. It was actually the two of them. Were the Heavenly Court and the Purple Palace going to fight again? Both of them were top-notch experts. Who would be the stronger one in this exchange? Lin Xian was also surprised. As expected of a top expert, the laws of divine ability and battle experience were really too strong. Even if he went up, it would be difficult for him to suppress the other party. Lin Xian was watching from a close distance. Suddenly his pupils shrank, because he found that the other party was pointing at him again. The golden finger turned into a giant sword and slashed at him. "Die, you ant!" War Sky was very angry. He and Yang Xianxing were both top experts who had been famous for a long time. They were fighting, and an ant was watching from a close distance. This was unbearable for him. Therefore, he planned to kill Lin Xian first. Lin Xian was also angry. His face darkened, and his figure swayed, instantly dodging. At the same time, he slashed out with the Azura sword art. The sword slashed out, and it turned into a fatal blow between heaven and earth, directly stabbing at the other party's throat. "What a fast sword!" the people in the distance exclaimed. War Sky was also shocked. He formed a seal with both hands to resist the sword. With a clang, he shattered the long sword and then took a step back. His entire arm was numb. "Damn it!" His face became incomparably ugly. The surrounding people exclaimed. Who was this person? He could actually resist Warsky's attack. It was too unbelievable. They didn't know him. Could it be that he was a new genius? A series of discussions took place. Even Yang Xianxing turned around and glanced at Qi Nan. He looked at Lin Xian with a trace of doubt. Lin Xian showed a kind smile to the other party. The other party was from the Heavenly Court. And he also belonged to the Heavenly Court 100,000 years later. Both of them belonged to the same camp. Therefore, he was naturally kind to the other party. Why? You want to fight one-on-one? At this time, another person from the Purple Mansion walked out of the Misty Rain Tower and shouted coldly. Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back and said coldly, there was no need to fight 2-on-1. He wasn't qualified. His words caused an uproar in the Misty Rain Tower. Who was this young man? He was too arrogant. Yes, did he not put Warsky in his eyes? Countless discussions sounded. Worski's face was gloomy. Kid, you're courting death. I'll deal with you first. He looked at Yang Xianxing and said coldly, we'll fight later. Don't worry. You won't have to wait long. 3 moves. I only need 3 moves to kill this ant. At that time, we'll decide the winner. After saying that, Warsky looked at Lin Xian and said coldly, come on, kid. Brat, come at me. Show me your strongest strength. I'll let you know what despair is. Countless people exclaimed. This unfamiliar kid was dead for sure. Ha! He had thoroughly offended Warsky. There was no need for 3 moves. When Warsky got serious, 1 move would be enough to kill him. I want to see what qualifications he has to be so arrogant to Warsky. Voices of discussion rang out one after another. It was clear that these people did not think highly of Lin Xian. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. Kill him in 3 moves? It wasn't the first time he heard such words, but he was still alive. He walked out and said, okay, I'll see how you kill me in 3 moves. Chapter 50-19. Lin Xian walked forward, waved his hand, and said loudly, let's go. Let's see what right you have to say such big words. He seemed to have a very disdainful expression. Countless people exclaimed. This young man was about to die, yet he still dared to be arrogant. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Heaven battling divine fist. He waved his hand and threw out a punch. Countless people exclaimed. Heavens, that was the ultimate technique that made heaven battling famous. That kid was really dead. With 1 punch, the surrounding universe kept shattering. Nothing could stop it. Lin Xian also felt a huge pressure. He also clenched his hand into a fist and threw it forward. The power of his divine body was unleashed to the extreme. 1 punch to split the sky. No way, this guy wants to fight heaven battling head on. Where did his confidence come from? Did he know that heaven battling had the legendary physique of the god of war? That was one of the strongest physiques in the universe. Who could resist it? Stupid thing. Some people looked at Lin Xian and sneered while shaking their heads. Heaven battling also said, I thought you had some strength, but now it seems that you are stupid. It was over. His fist swung over and collided with Lin Xian's fist. A thunderous sound was heard, and millions of thunderbolts flashed between heaven and earth. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as if the world was about to be destroyed. Fortunately, this was the starry sky of the universe. Otherwise, if they were to fight on a certain star, that star would have long been shattered into pieces. After the collision, the 2 figures retreated. How was that possible? Countless people were stunned. The situation they imagined did not happen. In their opinion, Lin Xian would not be able to block that punch at all. He would be blasted into a bloody mist, and his body and soul would be destroyed. But now, that did not happen. The other party blocked it. Damn it, how did he do it? How terrifying was this kid's physique? Countless people were shocked. Heaven battling pupils also constricted. He could not believe that the other party could block his fist. Was the other party's strength already comparable to his? Even Yang Xianxing, who was watching the battle from the side, was also surprised and narrowed his eyes. He had always thought that Lin Xian was very mysterious, and now it seemed that he was indeed strong. However, this person had never appeared before. Could it be that he had been silently cultivating all this time? He was too good at enduring. Lin Xian's arm was also a little numb. He had to admit that the other party was a powerful enemy. However, he quickly used the art of immortality to restore his arm to its original state. He stretched out a finger and pointed to the front. 1 move has already passed, there are still 2 moves left. You'd better bring out your true abilities. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. How arrogant! Boundless arrogance. Countless people were in an uproar. How terrifying was Zhang Tian's name in this starry sky. Now, There was actually someone who didn't put him in their eyes. Brat, you've completely angered me. He waved his arm as if it had turned into a peerless divine sword, slashing downward. The endless stars became dim and lightless. This sword was called the heaven-cleaving sword, and it had once easily cleaved a world in half. It could be said to be terrifying to the extreme. Now that he had used it, it once again caused countless cries of surprise. This punch was even more terrifying than the previous one. Could this kid withstand it? Was he using his ultimate skill again? Lin Xian snorted coldly, still not afraid. Six-path fist. He threw out a punch with an indomitable will, carrying with it an aura that could destroy everything. Around his fist, there were phantoms of 6 worlds circling around it, as if there were 6 paths of reincarnation. Boom! Clang! An intense collision sounded, and the heaven-cleaving sword was blocked in midair. The phantoms of 6 worlds kept circling around, resisting the sword head-on. Countless people were shocked. What kind of fist technique is this? Why do I feel a trace of incomparably mysterious power? Yang Xianxing frowned. The power of reincarnation, could it be the 6-path fist of reincarnation? How did he use it? Was he related to the Heaven and Earth Emperor? Countless people were shocked. Naturally, some people in the Misty Rain Tower recognized it. This was the power of reincarnation. Exclamations sounded one after another. Among them, there were a few figures who were also shocked. Among them, there was a young man whose eyes were shining. This person was so powerful. He had red hair and a handsome face, which was the symbol of the Azura race. His fiery red hair was unusually eye-catching, and there were many people beside him. One person said, "Your Highness, do you want to investigate his background?" "Yes." Azura Yu nodded. "I am very interested in this person, and I must know his identity. And I must try my best to rope him in. This way, our chances of success should be much higher." However, beside him, there were also people who frowned. Prince, could he really block Worski's third move? To be honest, they didn't dare to believe it. Worski was such a terrifying existence. Azura Yu's eyes were shining. He said, "Just wait and see, I believe he can do it. Even if he can't, I will do my best to protect him." Azura Yu had already decided that even if Lin Xian was defeated, he would reveal his identity and save him. The surrounding people were shocked because they found that the heaven-cleaving sword was also blocked by the other party. It was too unbelievable. This kid was really so powerful. Lin Xian said, "There is still a third move. Have you thought about what secret art you want to use?" Zhang Tian's face was so dark that it was frightening. He had made a bold statement before. He had said that he would kill the other party in 3 moves, but he couldn't do it now. The third move must kill the other party. Thinking of this, he took a step forward, and the laws on his body kept spinning. It formed an illusory world. The world of battles, this was a world that he evolved with his bloodline and laws. It was his own world, and he was the master here. Everything could be over. The world of battles shrouded Lin Xian. The power inside was enough to shatter everything. Not good, Lin Xian's pupils also dilated. He just wanted to feel the horror of this move. The next moment, he roared, and the blood seal in his palm condensed endless golden light, turning into a golden lion that charged forward. Seal of the fearless lion. The golden lion roared to the sky, tearing the 9 heavens. It waved its 2 techniques, turning the whole world upside down. Worski's body kept shaking, and his face was full of shock. Countless people were in an uproar. Yang Xianxing's pupils shrank. Seal of the fearless lion, how could it be? This was the Golden Lion King's secret art. How could he? He was really shocked. With a roar, he waved the spear in his hand, turning it into a waterfall, and charged forward. The world of battles was already shaking, and with Yang Xianxing's full-strength attack, the world of battles directly tore a big crack. Worski vomited blood and flew backward. The people of Zifu rushed over and shouted, "Yang Xianxing, what do you want to do?" Do you want a sneak attack? Damn it, my Zifu will not let you go. However, Yang Xianxing didn't care at all. He stared at Lin Xian and asked coldly, How do you know the seal of the fearless lion? What is your relationship with the Golden Lion King? Tell me your origin. The spear pointed forward. He was very suspicious of Lin Xian's identity. Chapter 50-20. Lin Xian frowned. Not good. I didn't expect the Golden Lion King to be from this era. Once he used it, there was a problem. Yang Xianxing suspected him. How was Lin Xian going to explain? Say that he knew the Golden Lion King? If he provoked the Golden Lion King, it would be even more troublesome. Lin Xian was still hesitating about how to explain. But from Yang Xianxing's point of view, he was obviously guilty. He shouted coldly, If you don't say it, then I'll do it myself. He waved the war spear in his hand. Yang Xianxing's strength was not weaker than Worski's, so he attacked forcefully and destroyed the stars. Lin Xian's body swayed. He used Shadowless Heaven's net and kept dodging. He said, Wait, this is a misunderstanding. He wanted to say something, but his figure suddenly disappeared. Want to leave? Yang Xianxing shouted angrily and formed a seal. The demonic mark between his eyebrows released a terrifying aura. Then, it suddenly opened. It turned into a purple eye that pierced through the sky. Divine Eye of Prominence. Many people were shocked. Their souls shook. Some people quickly retreated. They knew that Yang Xianxing's third eye was too terrifying. It was enough to destroy everything. As expected, one of the stars in the distance instantly collapsed under the gaze of this gaze. The endless starry sky was drawn into darkness. This gaze was terrifying, but Yang Xianxing's brows were tightly knitted together. Disappeared. He realized that the other party had really disappeared. Under his divine eye, he seemed to be unable to see the other party. Damn it, did he teleport away? But he didn't seem to feel the laws of space. Damn it! Warsky gritted his teeth and roared, searching crazily. The other people were in an uproar. Shura Yu frowned and went to check what was going on. The experts of the Shura clan beside him also checked, but in the end, they got the same result. The other party had disappeared. It seemed that they could no longer find him. Where could he have gone? Everyone was very confused. Lin Xian was even more shocked. He seemed to have entered the torrent of time. He was shuttling back and forth quickly. Damn it, what's going on? Why did he have to go back? Could it be that he had to return to reality? But this time was too short. He didn't complete the Shura princess request at all. Something must have happened during the process. Lin Xian furrowed his brows. The mark of the fearless lion should be this. Perhaps it was because he used the fearless lion's seal in front of the heavenly court's people. This triggered a series of suspicions. He knew that the world was all about cause and effect. What happened 100,000 years ago had already happened. His past had obviously changed the situation. That's why this happened. With a sigh, Lin Xian shook his head. The power of time was too mysterious. He didn't know what to do. However, at that moment, a badge in his storage ring shone brightly and enveloped him. What is this? Lin Xian was shocked. He knew that this token was given to him by the Shura princess. Could he actually stop time now? Lin Xian realized that his figure seemed to be returning to 100,000 years ago. He was too shocked. The Azura race definitely had something to do with the power of time. Perhaps the Shura princess had mastered the space-time sword. He wasn't sure. However, he seemed to know the reason behind the Azura clan's demise. If the Azura clan really did control the power of time, it was enough to make anyone fearful. Light flickered. Lin Xian realized that he had returned to the universe's starry sky. He returned to the Misty Rain Pavilion and found that those people had already left. Moreover, it was already a year later. It had been a year since his last battle with War Sky. The power of time was too strange. No, there were still 2 years. He didn't know if the Azura Prince had entered the land of death. Lin Xian found someone in the Misty Rain Pavilion and asked about the situation in Death Valley. Then, he quickly set off. That person didn't react at first. However, he soon cried out in surprise. Heavens, wasn't that guy the one who fought with War Sky a year ago? He actually came back again. What? Are you talking about that mysterious expert? Where is he? They all searched, but Lin Xian was too fast. By the time they came back to their senses, Lin Xian had already disappeared. Previously, he had asked about Death Valley, and it seemed that he was heading there. Should we go and take a look? Hearing this, the others quickly shook their heads. Forget it. That's the land of death. A great sage would definitely die there. I don't want to die there. Death Valley, a place of despair. It was a very scary place in the universe. Legend had it that after entering, no one had ever come out alive. At this moment, Lin Xian came to the place based on the information he received. He found that there was a valley in front of him. It was abnormally scary. The aura of death made him frown. Such a scary place. Why did Azura you come here? However, from the looks of it, Azura you probably went in and never came out. Was he going in? If he was trapped here, then it would be fun. He came from 100,000 years in the future. If he was trapped here, he probably wouldn't be able to get out. No one would even know that he died here. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. At this moment, he seemed to have thought of something and entered the sword world. He looked at the Hellfire Dragon who was still expanding his territory. Lin Xian said, "Old man, come here." The Hellfire Dragon was very angry. He walked over and said, "Kid, what are you trying to do? Although I was sealed by that old man, it doesn't mean that you can order me around." Lin Xian smiled. "It's not good to be a coolie. Do you want to go out early and give you a chance?" "What chance?" The Hellfire Dragon's eyes lit up. Although he was just a remnant soul, he really wanted to go out. Lin Xian said, "Death Valley, a place of despair. I've never heard of it." The Hellfire Dragon was shocked. "Why would you go to such a place? Do you not want to live anymore? Why do you care so much? I'm just asking if you know. If you don't, then you won't have a chance." Lin Xian felt that the Hellfire Dragon had lived for countless years. Although it was suppressed, it was still a terrifying existence back then. Hence, he was going to ask if it knew. The Hellfire Dragon said, "You don't say. I do know about this place. I've even been there before." "You've been there before?" Lin Xian was stunned and frowned. Didn't they say that this was a place of death? No one who went in had ever come out alive? The Hellfire Dragon snorted. This was indeed a place of death. But no one came out. It was too exaggerated. Plus, what kind of existence was this dragon? At its peak, it was a supreme existence. It's not something you can imagine. I went in and came out normal. Seeing Lin Xian's doubtful gaze, the Hellfire Dragon was furious. He snorted and said, "This dragon only went in for a short distance, and then came back. It was too terrifying inside. There was a huge secret." Chapter 50-21. Lin Xian asked, "What are you going in for? What's the point of going to such a dangerous place?" This was what he was very confused about. What was Azura you planning? Because there was a legend that there were 2 great emperors who entered Death Valley in their later years and never came out. Some people speculated that the 2 of them had fallen asleep inside. Think about it, if the 2 great emperors died inside, then their inheritance must be inside too. I went there because I heard about this legend. Who doesn't want the inheritance of the great emperors? Lin Xian was shocked. There was such a thing. Now he finally understood why Azura Yu wanted to go in. Azura Yu, no matter how talented he was, it was too difficult to become a great emperor. He probably went in for the inheritance of the great emperors. Thinking about this, he was also excited and curious. He prepared to go in. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian entered Death Valley. After entering, a terrifying death aura shrouded him. Lin Xian snorted coldly and activated the Taiji diagram. The Taiji diagram rotated to block the attack. The Taiji diagram rotated and blocked the death aura. Then he continued to walk in. The aura inside was very terrifying. There was no sound at all. Suddenly, Lin Xian felt someone patting him from behind. He turned around, but there was no one. What was going on? Was it an illusion? Maybe he was too nervous. He looked carefully with the Tianji God eyes, but there was still no figure. He let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly froze and his body froze. This was because he found a claw mark on the back of his shoulder. It was obvious that something had hit him just now. Damn it, this Death Valley was too strange. He couldn't see through it even with the Tianji God child. What was it? Lin Xian asked the Hellfire Dragon. The Hellfire Dragon said, "You met that thing too. I met it back then too. It's just a small thing, nothing to be afraid of." When Lin Xian heard this, he rolled his eyes. Nothing to fear? That was using the Hellfire Dragon's cultivation. The Hellfire Dragon was no weaker than Xiaojiuyo at his peak. Lin Xian couldn't compare at all. The Hellfire Dragon did not care, but that did not mean he did not care. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian used Shadowless Heaven's net and moved quickly. Fortunately, the mysterious existence did not slap him again. That was a relief to him. After walking for about half a day, a frightened voice suddenly came from the front. There seemed to be people roaring and fighting. Lin Xian frowned and rushed over. The next moment, he saw a shocking scene. There was a red storm ahead. Red claws stretched out from the red storm and instantly enveloped the two great sages. Then, it was torn to pieces. Lin Xian was shocked. There was actually a saint here. But what was that red storm and claw? Was there a monster inside? The Hellfire Dragon said. "Kid, leave quickly, don't provoke the existence inside." Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. If even the Hellfire Dragon said so, it meant that it was extremely dangerous. He quickly retreated. The people in front also saw it. When they saw Lin Xian, they were stunned. Then, he said, "Fellow Taoists, please save us. We are willing to give you a treasure." Lin Xian sneered. He was unmoved. What a joke. He didn't have the ability to save these people. He quickly dodged. The people in front screamed in despair. In the end, no one could escape. After the red storm disappeared, Lin Xian walked up. He realized that the people in front were all dead. These people recognized him. That meant that they must have seen him in the Misty Rain Tower. According to Zhang Tian, those who could enter the Misty Rain Tower were all top-notch in strength and identity. But even so, these people still died here. Lin Xian's face was extremely cold. This place was more dangerous than he thought. Fortunately, he had the Hellfire Dragon's reminder. He asked, "What should I do next?" The Hellfire Dragon said and walked forward. There was an underground river there. That river is dry and is equivalent to a passageway. You can walk along that river. You should be able to go inside. This way, it would be less dangerous. Lin Xian nodded. He followed the Hellfire Dragon's instructions and started to look for the dry river. After walking for about 3 days, Lin Xian stopped. His brows were tightly knitted together. Because he did see a river. However, it wasn't a dry river. There was water. The blood-red river water was like blood vessels on the ground. Lin Xian frowned. "Is this the dried-up river you were talking about?" The Hellfire Dragon took a look and was surprised. "That's not right. The last time I came, it was dry. Why is there water now? And it doesn't look like water. It's blood. Kid, the last time I came here, I don't know how many thousands of years ago it was. These years, there have been new changes here. I don't know about it. So you have to be more careful." Lin Xian nodded. Obviously, there were some changes here. Suddenly, he was stunned. He realized that there were a few figures floating over from the blood river. There were 3 of them. Lin Xian was surprised. When he took a closer look, his pupils shrank even more. He waved his hand and a golden hand appeared. It grabbed towards the front. In an instant, it covered the 3 people and brought them out. These people were none other than Xiao Luo Yu and the other 2 from the Shura clan. Their eyes were closed, and their faces were pale. There was no aura on them. This caused Lin Xian to frown. Could it be that he had already fallen? Was he still a step too late? No, the 3 of them weren't dead. The Hellfire Dragon said. Lin Xian was happy. Do you know what happened to them? Lin Xian had already checked. These people didn't seem to be injured, but they didn't have any aura. The Hellfire Dragon said that they had no souls. Their souls were taken away. That was why they couldn't wake up. No souls. Lin Xian frowned. The Hellfire Dragon said that humans had 3 souls and 7 spirits. They were all called souls. But there were still differences. One of their souls and one of their spirits were taken away. So, it could be said that their souls weren't complete. Then where were they taken to? Hearing that the 3 of them weren't dead and there was still hope, Lin Xian sighed in relief. The Hellfire Dragon thought about it and said that it should be related to the Blood River. Kid, are you sure you want to take the risk? Lin Xian said to try. At least he had to bring Xiao Luo Yu back safely. He had no choice. He had promised the Shura princess. This was the only way for him to get out of the Shura ruins. Otherwise, he might be trapped here for the rest of his life, unable to return. Chapter 50-22. Lin Xian walked towards the blood river and stepped into it. In the next moment, he felt an endless murderous aura surging towards him, as if it wanted to rot his body. At the same time, it affected his soul. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The 9 yang divine body shone brightly, and endless sun runes appeared on his body. The heavenly secret divine eye in his eyes shone brightly, as if a god was looking down on the world. It was to resist the power of the blood river. Lin Xian walked towards the depths of the blood river, going against the current. After walking for about half a day, Lin Xian felt his soul shudder. He stopped. At this moment, there was an invisible force that wanted to take his soul away. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. Perhaps it was this power that had caused the Jura Yu and the others to fall unconscious. What should he do? His eyes shone with a terrifying light as he investigated. He wanted to find the source of this force, but he found that it was impossible. It was too mysterious. It seemed that he could only beat them at their own game. Lin Xian sat down cross-legged and took out the heaven-devouring jar. His body sat in the heaven-devouring jar. With half an extreme-grade weapon protecting his physique, Lin Xian didn't have to worry about anything. Next, the great dragon sword soul in Lin Xian's body shone brightly and merged with his soul. Then, Lin Xian no longer blocked it. He followed the force and his soul left his body. Then, he quickly entered the depths of the blood river. In the depths of the blood river, there was a blood-colored pagoda. It was very small, only the size of a palm, and it shone with a demonic light. There were mysterious runes on it. The force that attracted the soul came from here. Lin Xian's soul looked at this scene and was shocked. In the next moment, he felt that he had entered the blood-colored pagoda. After entering, Lin Xian was surprised. The inside of the pagoda had its own space, and it was very strange. The inside of the pagoda also had a blood-colored aura, and there were blood-colored pillars one after another. On the pillars, there were numerous malevolent faces. They were all in extreme pain. Some were roaring crazily, while others were in despair and had lifeless eyes. Were these all souls? Lin Xian was shocked. The blood-red pagoda had actually collected so many souls. What was the other party trying to do? Who was the owner of the pagoda? Lin Xian didn't know any of this because Lin Xian was only a soul. 1. At this moment, a brilliant light blossomed in all directions. On one of the blood-colored pillars, a blood-colored rune suddenly appeared. They joined together to form a blood-red chain that shot towards Lin Xian's soul. In an instant, it enveloped Lin Xian's soul and tried to pull him into the blood-colored pillar. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. In the next moment, the corners of his mouth curled up as he snorted coldly. His soul blossomed, and a terrifying radiance blocked the blood-red chains. At the same time, he quickly used his soul to search. Soon, he discovered 3 ferocious faces in the stone pillar beside him. They were Xiao Luoyu and the other 2. Found it! The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled up. It should be enough to take away one of their souls and one of their souls. Thinking of this, Lin Xian quickly flew to the front, wanting to awaken Xiao Luoyu's soul. However, at this moment, the blood-colored pillar was enraged and it kept shaking. The blood-colored nomological laws on it condensed into chains and once again swept towards Lin Xian. Dozens of blood-colored chains enveloped Lin Xian's soul. Lin Xian felt a great threat. He roared angrily and struck out a dragon-shaped sword qi, shattering the chains. With a clang, the dozens of chains around him were all shattered. Then, Lin Xian attacked Azura Yu's stone pillar again, shattering the blood-colored stone pillar that Azura Yu was on. With a rumbling sound, the stone pillar shook and thousands of souls flew out from it. Their eyes shone brightly as they roared crazily. Wake up! Lin Xian's soul roared and enveloped Xiao Luoyu and the other 2. The souls of the 3 of them regained their consciousness after a while. The next moment, they sucked in a breath of cold air. Where are we? We're being attacked. They recalled what happened before and saw Lin Xian's soul. It's you! The 3 of them were shocked. Are you trapped here too? Their eyes were filled with despair. In their opinion, Lin Xian could only be suppressed here. However, Lin Xian said, I'm here to save you. Come with me. With that, he waved his hand and retreated. Xiao Luoyu and the other 2 were stunned, but they quickly recovered and quickly followed. At this moment, a mournful roar sounded between heaven and earth. Then, the endless chains rushed over at high speed. Those souls wanted to resist, but they couldn't resist at all and were instantly suppressed. The shattered stone pillar condensed again, and the escaping souls were once again swallowed, turning into ferocious faces. The chains that filled the sky rushed towards Xiao Luoyu and the other 2. Xiao Luoyu and the other 2 were filled with despair. Were they going to be suppressed again? They couldn't accept it. 36 chains enveloped them, wanting to take them away completely. At this moment, Lin Xian attacked again. The great dragon sword qi flew out and slashed in all directions, shattering all 36 chains. Let's go. Lin Xian waved his hand again. Xiao Luoyu and the other 2 were stunned. Those terrifying chains of law were directly shattered. Heavens, how did he do it? These people looked at Lin Xian with their mouths agape. It seemed that Lin Xian wasn't captured at all. He was here to save them. Thinking of this, hope returned to their eyes. Let's go. Xiao Luoyu and the other 2 quickly followed. The blood-red pagoda was completely enraged and wanted to suppress Lin Xian and the others. Especially Lin Xian. They attacked wildly. Lin Xian's scalp went numb. Although he had the great dragon sword spirit to protect his main soul, he couldn't fully activate it. He could only passively defend. Lin Xian looked at the 3 of them and said, Your souls don't resist. He struck out the dragon-shaped sword qi and enveloped the souls of the 3 of them, bringing them to his side. Then, he became one with the sword and flew quickly. In an instant, he tore open the void and arrived outside the blood-red pagoda. The pagoda was completely enraged. 2 blood-red claws stretched out from the inside, covering the sky and covering the earth as they rushed over. These were skeletal claws. The red skeletal claws were abnormally strange. They easily pierced through the void. Lin Xian felt that his soul was about to split open. It was too terrifying. He used Shadowless Heaven's net, and his speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he was near the heaven-devouring jar. His soul and body merged. In the next moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes. The two red skeletal claws had already arrived in front of him and mercilessly slapped down. Clang! The two skeletal claws slapped the heaven-devouring jar, making an earth-shattering sound. The heaven-devouring jar was sent flying, and Lin Xian's blood was boiling. In the next moment, he shouted coldly. The heaven-devouring jar created a terrifying devouring vortex that swept in all directions. The skeletal claws attacked in all directions, but they were instantly devoured. Chapter 50-23. The blood-colored skull shattered, emitting an earth-shattering sound. At the same time, the blood river in front of them surged crazily, and a low roar came from it. It seemed to be very angry. Lin Xian sneered and activated the heaven-devouring jar to the extreme. A boundless whirlpool swept forward, as if it was going to cover the entire blood river. The blood river gradually calmed down, and no longer attacked Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted and quickly left with the heaven-devouring jar. He came to a safe place, and with a wave of his hand, merged the three souls into Xiao Luoyu and the other two. After a while, Xiao Luoyu and the other two opened their eyes. They were confused. Where was this place? Soon, they came back to their senses and sat up one by one. Weren't we under attack? Who saved us? When they saw Lin Xian, their faces were filled with joy. It was you saved us. They naturally recognized Lin Xian, especially Xiao Luoyu, who had looked for Lin Xian before. He wanted Lin Xian to help him. However, the other party had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Lin Xian asked, "Are you okay?" Xiao Luoyu and the other two shook their heads. "If you need help in the future, just ask," Lin Xian said. "You're too polite. Actually, it was your sister who asked me to look for you." With that, Lin Xian waved his hand and took out a token. When he saw the token, Xiao Luoyu was stunned. It was indeed his sister's token. He now trusted Lin Xian completely. Lin Xian asked, "What did you encounter before?" He was also very curious. Xiao Luoyu and the other two said, "When they came to the blood river, they were about to cross it. At this time, an invisible force enveloped them, and then they were suppressed in the blood-colored pagoda." Lin Xian said, "This place is very strange. I'll take you away." "Okay." Xiao Luoyu's face was a little pale, but he did not refuse. After the previous experience, he knew that he could not come to this place for the time being. This time, if not for Lin Xian, he would have been dead for sure. Therefore, he didn't want to stay here any longer. The group returned. However, the process was not so smooth because this place was really too strange. When they returned, they encountered the red storm again. Lin Xian had seen the danger of the red storm before. Xiao Luoyu and the other two's expressions changed drastically. Previously, they had not come in as a group. Instead, dozens of people came in. Other than the three of them, everyone else was enveloped by the bloody storm. And then it was torn to shreds. Therefore, when they saw this red storm, Xiao Luoyu and the other two were terrified and kept retreating. Lin Xian's face was also cold. Golden light flickered in his eyes, and he saw some figures inside. He knew that with their current strength, it would be very difficult for them to pass through. Even if they could, they would have to pay a price. The Hellfire Dragon also said, "Kid, change your path." Lin Xian nodded and led Azure Yu and the others in another direction. That path was peaceful, but after walking for half a day, Lin Xian and the others stopped again. There was a figure in front of them, standing there with a saber on his back. He had 6 purple eyes on his body, and they were extremely strange, causing people's scalps to go numb. Everyone felt as if their souls were being torn apart, and even Lin Xian's pupils shrank. What a terrifying soul power! This person was definitely extremely powerful. Those 6 eyes looked towards Lin Xian and the others. Xiao Luoyu and the other two's souls were about to shatter. Lin Xian's eyes flickered with a terrifying light, but he could only protect himself. Was he going to risk his life? Lin Xian grabbed the heaven-swallowing jar and prepared to attack. However, at this time, a cold laugh sounded, causing people's hair to stand on end. The man with 6 eyes in front of them also flashed and quickly dodged. He escaped. Xiao Luoyu and the others were shocked to be able to escape from such a powerful soul. How terrifying was the other party! Even Lin Xian's hair stood on end. In the next moment, they saw an old man walk over. This old man had red hair, and his face was withered, like a zombie. However, Xiao Luoyu was instantly stunned, and his eyes turned red. "Ancestor!" he shouted. Although he did not know this person, that red hair was the symbol of the Azura clan. This old man was from the Azura clan. Xiao Luoyu and the others knelt on one knee, and their expressions were extremely respectful. The eyes of the old man in front of them flashed. He whispered to himself, "Become a god! Become an immortal! Become dust!" Then he laughed strangely, turned around, and flew away. "Ancestor!" Xiao Luoyu and the others exclaimed. It seemed that their ancestor's condition was very strange. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. What did this old man mean? It seemed that the old man was in despair, but the ancestor's strength was already very high, and even he was in despair. What was going on? He did not know the answer now, because the old man had already left. Lin Xian and the others continued on their way, and along the way, they met a few more figures. They were all extremely old figures, and their origins and strength were shocking. However, at this moment, they were all in Death Valley, and what were they looking for? In the end, an extremely terrifying power was emitted from within. Those ancient figures all rushed over. Lin Xian and the others were shocked, and they also followed, wanting to see what was going on. They saw a large hall in front of them, and there was a black sun above the hall, burning continuously. It was carrying an extremely terrifying demonic aura. Meanwhile, an extremely terrifying light burst out from the eyes of those ancient figures. "Attack!" With a low shout, these people attacked one after another. Their target was that black sun. A great battle broke out in an instant, and it was extremely terrifying. Lin Xian and the others quickly retreated in fear. A battle of this level was not something they could fight against at all. They could only watch from afar. The black sun kept spinning, and there were black flames burning and sweeping in all directions. He alone had actually blocked the attacks of so many ancient figures. It was truly inconceivable. The black sun suddenly rushed down, directly blasting these ancient figures away. Those ancient figures spat out blood, their bodies were broken, and some were burning. For a moment, no one was able to stand. Was it that terrifying? Xiao Luoyu and the others were shocked. At this moment, a cold laugh came from the black sun. "Become a god! Become an immortal? Why not become a demon?" A terrifying voice echoed in the 9 heavens, and then it charged towards Lin Xian and the others. Xiao Luoyu and the others went crazy. Lin Xian's pupils dilated, and he instantly threw out the heaven-devouring jar. However, the black sun was even faster, and it enveloped him in an instant. Lin Xian's figure was covered by the black flames, and he disappeared. Chapter 50-24. Lin Xian was also facing a great enemy. He felt a huge sense of danger. The other party was too fast, so fast that he couldn't react at all. Would his divine body be able to withstand such terrifying flames at the moment? He didn't know. He was even prepared to use the great dragon sword spirit and the power of the sword world. He wanted to split the black sun apart at all costs. But in the next moment, he was stunned. He didn't make a move, because he realized that the black flames didn't burn him at all. And this time, he came to a strange space, surrounded by demonic aura. There was a black palace in front of him. The ancient great desolate Aeon was extremely extraordinary. In front of the palace, there was a figure that looked like a demon god. He was staring at Lin Xian. Lin Xian felt a chill down his spine. There was actually a space inside the black sun, and there was such a terrifying figure. Was he the one who defeated those ancient existences? You're here. The demon god-like figure spoke in a deep voice. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. What did that mean? The other party knew him? This was too unbelievable. How could the other party know him? He said. Senior, please forgive me. I didn't mean to disturb Senior. I'll leave now. Young man, I've been waiting for you for a long time. You're finally here. The demonic figure spoke again. Lin Xian's face became extremely ugly. Was the other party really waiting for him? But this was too unbelievable. You know me? Who are you? Lin Xian asked coldly. I'm the Demon Emperor. The demon god-like figure spoke in a deep voice. Hearing this title, Lin Xian was even more shocked. Demon Emperor, could this be a great emperor? He couldn't believe it. He wanted to ask the Hellfire Dragon, but he realized that his soul and body were suppressed here. The other party's gaze made him unable to move at all. He couldn't even use his weapon. The sword world couldn't ask either. Damn it, he's too strong. Is he really a great emperor? Lin Xian guessed that other than the great emperor, no one could make him feel such despair with just a gaze. I've deduced the secrets of the heavens and found out that there are guests from outer space, so I'm waiting here. Was the visitor from outer space referring to him? Lin Xian truly did not belong to the present. Instead, it came from 100,000 years later. If the other party could even deduce such a thing, Lin Xian now believed that the other party might really be a great emperor. However, why was the other party waiting for him? He voiced out his doubts. The demon emperor smiled. I have the Imperial Sutra. Are you willing to learn? Lin Xian was stupefied. The other party wanted to pass on the Imperial Sutra to him. Why? The Devil Emperor didn't reply. Instead, he asked again. Are you willing to learn? Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. In the current situation, the other party could kill him with a single glance. However, he didn't do so. This meant that he shouldn't be in any danger. In other words, the other party really wanted to impart the imperial scripture to him. Since that was the case, why not learn it? Lin Xian nodded and said, Junior is willing. Very good. The demon emperor laughed heartily. My imperial scripture is called the Illusion Demon Scripture, and I will impart it to you now. An extremely terrifying black light appeared in his eyes and surged into Lin Xian's eyes. Lin Xian felt his soul tremble. His heavenly secret divine eyes were about to resist. However, the other party's voice sounded. Don't resist. You can't resist it, and I won't harm you. Lin Xian controlled the power of the heavenly secret divine child and didn't resist. He felt that his soul was about to split open. There was indeed an extremely terrifying information that surged into his mind. Lin Xian felt that he was about to turn into a demon at this moment. After an unknown period of time, Lin Xian came back to his senses. His face was a little pale, but he was incomparably excited. There was an additional piece of information in his mind. It was the demon transformation scripture. Was it really the Emperor's scripture? He had learned 2 types of great Emperor's ultimate techniques. He knew that this kind of ultimate technique surpassed everything. It was really too terrifying. If he had the complete great Emperor's ancient scripture, then he would no longer be afraid of the Crown Prince. Thank you, Senior. Lin Xian cupped his fists and looked forward, incomparably grateful. All right, young man, it's time for you to leave. You and I are not fated yet. There will be a time when we meet again. The Demon Emperor waved his hand, and a force sent Lin Xian out. In the next moment, Lin Xian felt the world spinning. When he reappeared, he was already in the main hall outside. The ancient figures outside had long left. Only Xiao Luoyu and the other 2 were still waiting. Their faces were pale. Could it be that Lin Gongzi had already died? They couldn't imagine that their benefactor who had saved them before had died like this. As for them, it was very likely that they would also die here. But in the next moment, they discovered that the black sun had appeared again. Then, a figure flew out. Who was it? They were facing a great enemy. However, when they were talking about Lin Xian, they were all happy. Lin Gongzi, you're fine? That's great. Xiao Luoyu and the other two walked for a while, their faces full of excitement. Lin Gongzi, what did you experience? What kind of magic did the black sun have? Lin Xian shook his head. I don't know. I fainted. Lin Xian wouldn't tell them about something as important as the Imperial Sutra. He said, Let's go quickly. Xiao Luoyu and the other two nodded. At this moment, the black sun in the sky shot out a ball of black flames that swept into the distance. Everywhere it passed, the terrifying aura disappeared. The ancient figures, the red storm, and the strange laughter were all gone. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He knew that the demon emperor was opening a path for him. He said, Let's go quickly. There's only one chance. The few of them turned into streaks of light and flew quickly. They didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. There was no danger. Finally, they left the Valley of Death. After they came out, Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Luoyu and the other two felt as if a lifetime had passed. If it weren't for Lin Xian, they probably wouldn't have been able to come out in this lifetime. Lin Gongzi, please come back to the Shura clan with me. I must thank you greatly. Lin Xian nodded. I can also explain to your sister. The group returned to the Shura clan. When they came back, the Shura princess was beaming with joy. Brother, you're back. It's great. She smiled beautifully. Xiao Luoyu said, It's all thanks to this Lin Gongzi's help. Lin Gongzi. The Shura princess looked at Lin Xian and nodded. Thank you? Lin Xian said. You can return the token to the princess. The princess took the token, then took out 3 treasure boxes and gave them to Lin Xian. She said, Thank you for bringing my brother out of the Valley of Death. Sir, please accept these gifts. Lin Xian was confused. He took them and opened them. Suddenly, a voice sounded in his mind. Damn, it's this thing. Lin Xian frowned. It was the Hellfire Dragon's voice. He asked, You're too excited. I'm dizzy. Kid, do you know what this is? This is the hourglass of time. It can allow you to travel through time. This is a heaven-defying thing. Lin Xian gasped. The hourglass of time. Does it have the power of time? Doesn't that mean he can go back to the past, or even the future? Chapter 50-25. Lin Xian was delighted to know the use of the hourglass. He carefully put it away. Then he said, Thank you, Princess. Lin Gongzi, I want to thank you properly. I want to set up a grand banquet. Shura Yu also smiled and invited Lin Xian in. Lin Xian didn't refuse. He stayed for a few days and then left. Lin Gongzi, if you have time, you must come and find me. Shura Yu waved. Lin Xian nodded but sighed in his heart. Because he already knew the fate of these people. In a few more years, these people would probably suffer a devastating blow. And he couldn't do anything because it couldn't be changed. With a sigh, Lin Xian turned and left. When his figure disappeared, the torrent of time appeared under his feet. The next moment, he left again and returned to reality. With a flash, Lin Xian appeared in the ruins. The Hellfire Dragon sword flew over. He said, Damn, kid, you're finally back. Where did you go? I thought you died. A series of questions stunned Lin Xian. Did he really come back? Did he really experience what happened 100,000 years ago, or was it just a dream? He quickly checked. He found that the 3 hourglasses were still there. At the same time, there was a black ancient scripture in his mind. demon summoning scripture. All of this meant that he really went back 100,000 years ago, and it wasn't a dream. It wasn't an illusion either. Coming back to his senses, Lin Xian looked at the Hellfire Dragon sword and put it away. Then he said, "We'll talk about this later." Lin Xian had already fulfilled Princess Shura's wish. Then he should be able to walk out of the ruins. Closing his eyes, Lin Xian followed his senses and walked forward. This time, the fog in front of him disappeared. Lin Xian walked for a day and finally walked out. When he opened his eyes, he found that he was already outside the ruins. Was he out? Lin Xian was overjoyed, and the Hellfire Dragon sword flew out again, his face full of shock. "What the F***ck, kid, you really came out?" Lin Xian scanned his surroundings, but there was no one around. He frowned. He wondered if Monkey King had come out. One had to know that he had gone in together with Sun Qitian. Now that he had come out, it could only mean one thing. Is he still inside? He had searched for them before, but he couldn't find any trace of them. Because it contained the power of time. He and Sun Qitian might have entered different streams of time. That was probably why they couldn't find him. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian decided to use the hourglass of time to find Sun Qitian. At this moment, the Hellfire Dragon advised, "Kid, don't waste such a precious thing. That monkey had an extraordinary background. It was very likely that he was a descendant of the great emperor. Therefore, he definitely had the ability to come out." Lin Xian was stunned. The Hellfire Dragon knew about the hourglass of time. He wanted to ask the Hellfire Dragon. At this moment, the Fire Dragon's sword said again, "There's no need to ask, this sword is a part of my body. The sword is me, and I am the sword. If there's anything, you can ask the Fire Dragon's sword directly." Lin Xian squinted his eyes. There was indeed something wrong with the Hellfire Dragon. It didn't say these things before, and only said it now. It seemed like it believed him a little. Alright, let the Hellfire Dragon stay inside. With the sword outside, it would be easier for him to control it. Therefore, he asked again, "Let me ask you, have you heard of the Demon Emperor?" Since the Hellfire Dragon said that Sun Qitian wasn't in danger, Lin Xian was relieved. He also believed that with Sun Qitian's strength, it was only a matter of time before he came out. Therefore, he quickly asked the other question in his heart. After the Hellfire Dragon sword heard it, it was shocked too. Demon Emperor. Indeed, it had heard of him. An expert from the demon world. He had also become a great emperor. He was invincible, but he had fallen long ago. Was he really a great emperor? Lin Xian was shocked. A great emperor from 100,000 years ago couldn't have survived until now. Even with the elixir of immortality, it wouldn't have worked. That meant that the illusion devil scripture in his mind. It was the great emperor's ancient scripture. He was overjoyed. Next, he could finally cultivate the real emperor's scripture. Thinking of this, his body flashed, and he walked far away. At this time, a killing sword swept towards him. Lin Xian snorted, and punched the killing sword away. His face was gloomy. "Get out." 4 figures walked out from the surroundings and said, "That's right. Brat, when did you appear? We have been guarding this place for a long time. No one can enter, only people can leave. That means you didn't even come in. You walked out from the ruins in front. That was the Azura ruins, a place of death. No one could come out alive after entering. But you came out. How did you do it?" They were really too shocked. Their eyes were red. The Azura race was said to be an extremely powerful ancient race. Later on, they were destroyed. But there were definitely endless secrets left in the ruins. It was just that no one who went in could come out, so these secret treasures and inheritances couldn't be brought out. But now, someone had actually managed to walk out of it. Then, what did he get? The Azura race's treasures, cultivation techniques? Or inheritances? These were all supreme treasures. They all wanted to get their hands on them. Lin Xian sneered. Threatening me? I'll give you a chance. Get out, or I'll send you to hell. You're courting death. The man roared angrily. His eyes-killing sword bloomed with billions of rays of light and attacked again. In an instant, it enveloped Lin Xian and cut Lin Xian in half. You're just an ant. You just had a special way to come out. But in terms of true strength, even 10,000 of you combined would not be a match for me. The middle-aged man snorted with a disdainful expression. In the next moment, he was stunned. That was because the figure he had hacked apart had turned into green smoke and disappeared. This meant that the other party was just an illusion. Where was the other party's real body? He wanted to turn around. In the next moment, a beam of sword light sent his head flying. Lin Xian used Shadowless Heaven's net to dodge this sword. Now that he attacked, he killed an expert instantly. Ants? I think you're the ants. Lin Xian sneered. The middle-aged man didn't die. His head flew over and roared crazily. Damn it! Kill him! With a roar, his body quickly reassembled. The other 3 people also charged over. The bodies of these 4 people turned into soul-like existences, covering all directions. A terrifying aura swept over, making even sages want to crawl. It was too terrifying. Lin Xian frowned. What kind of secret technique was this? At this moment, the Hellfire Dragon Sword said that they were from the undead race. The terrifying primordial race. Lin Xian snorted after hearing this. So what if they were from the undead race? He held the Hellfire Dragon Sword and used the Azura Sword technique. A sword flew out. In an instant, 4 heads flew up again. Ultimate kill. Chapter 50-26. Their eyes were filled with despair. Had they been killed by a single sword strike? But the other party was too strong. They recognized that the other party had used the Great Emperor's mystique, the Azura Sword technique. This person was a top-notch assassin. They had been careless. But they were not satisfied. Kid, if you kill us, you will definitely die. Even if you cultivate the Azura Sword technique, you are no match for the undead tribe. Death Soul Melody. The 4 powerhouses of the undead spirit clan activated their forbidden technique at the last moment. A hellish sound rang between heaven and earth. It was extremely strange and enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted and slashed with his sword. But these sounds were invisible and could not be destroyed. Just as he was about to use the power of the great dragon sword soul to destroy them, he realized that the sounds had strangely disappeared. Playing tricks. Lin Xian snorted. Hellfire Dragon Sword. Speaking of which, kid, you have been targeted by them. Once the Death Soul Melody is used, it is a kill order. The undead tribe will find you according to the Death Soul Melody. Even if you escape to the ends of the earth, they will still be able to kill you. Something like this had happened before. Someone had provoked the undead tribe and was used the Death Soul Melody. This person had left this starry sky and went to another world. In the end, he was still found by the undead tribe. In the end, his soul was destroyed and his ending was very tragic. I advise you to be careful. No matter how strong you are, you can't fight against an ancient tribe member. Moreover, the undead tribe is a very terrifying existence in the underworld. After hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. He was surprised that there was such a method. Around the period it took an incense stick to burn, a figure appeared in the distance. This figure was without a trace and suddenly appeared behind Lin Xian. At the same time, a gray flag covered him. "And you dare to kill the undead tribe? I will make you suffer a fate worse than death." The gray flag released an extremely terrifying aura of death that could take away one's life. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Were the dead spirit clan still lingering around? Then don't blame me. He struck out with a palm, turning into a fearless lion that tore through the 9 heavens. The gray flag was torn apart and shattered on the spot. Then, Lin Xian swung his sword, the Hellfire Dragon sword turning into an afterimage, piercing towards his opponent. Clang! An earth-shattering sound rang out as the surrounding void started to shatter. It was as though the world was about to be destroyed. The two figures retreated. Lin Xian's arm felt a little numb, and he frowned. On the other side, the expert from the Undead Spirit clan had an extremely ugly expression on his face. They had just exchanged blows, and one of his treasures had already shattered. If he hadn't taken out his trump card, he would have been dead for sure. It was a large red cauldron that had blocked the attack just now. However, at this moment, there was actually a sword mark on it, causing his heart to bleed. "Damn it, I want you dead!" he roared crazily. He waved the cauldron and charged over. Countless vengeful spirits flew out from the cauldron, blotting out the sky and enveloping Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly as he continued to use his ultimate techniques. At the same time, he activated the 9 Yang divine body to the extreme. Flames of extreme Yang flew out, sweeping away the vengeful spirits. The vengeful spirits were enveloped by the flames and quickly retreated, unable to get close at all. Lin Xian sneered. "The Undead Spirit Clan is only SOSO. You want to kill me? You're still far from it. Damn it!" The Undead Spirit Clan's expression turned ugly, and the expert shouted angrily. He took out a rune in a small figure, pasted it on it, and said, "Curse of the Undead." As he spoke, he slashed the rune man with his sword. Cracks appeared on the rune man's body, and at the same time, a crack appeared on Lin Xian's body. With a crack, his body shattered, and sacred blood flowed out from it. "Damn it, what's going on?" Lin Xian was shocked. The opponent didn't attack him just now, right? The attack was too sudden. He couldn't react in time. The Hellfire Dragon Sword said, "Kid, this is the most terrifying part of the Undead Spirit Clan. Curse, when he attacked the Rune Man, he was attacking you." Damn it, there was such a thing. Lin Xian was dumbfounded. The opponent didn't even need to attack him to hurt him. His method was too strange. But he was also angry. His face darkened, and he shouted coldly. He used Shadowless Heaven's net, and his speed was extremely fast. With a slash of the sword, it could destroy heaven and earth. The Undead Spirit Clan elder sneered and quickly retreated. He didn't fight Lin Xian head-on. At the same time, he slapped the rune. One of the rune man's arms was shattered. Lin Xian felt that the bones in his sword-wielding hands were shattered. An invisible force enveloped him. This sword strike was broken. Ha ha. Seeing that Lin Xian was injured again, the Undead Spirit Clan elder laughed loudly. "Kid, now you know how powerful the Undead Spirit Clan is. You want to fight against us? Stupid. Damn it." Lin Xian's face was cold. The Hellfire Dragon said to leave quickly. Lin Xian frowned. "He didn't even need to attack me to hurt me. If I leave, won't I die for sure?" The Hellfire Dragon said that although the Undead Spirit Clan's curse was powerful, it couldn't be used indefinitely. Or else, the entire universe would be theirs. Once this thing was used, it would be punished by the heavenly lightning. The more curses one used, the more heavenly lightning punishment one would receive. So unless it was a last resort, they wouldn't use it easily. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He understood. It was a taboo. No wonder, if there weren't any restrictions, the entire underworld would have been the Undead Spirit Clans. The Hellfire Dragon said again. Also, this kind of attack could only be used on those weaker than oneself, or those on the same level. It was possible to surpass one's level, but it couldn't surpass too much power. If a saint wanted to curse a great emperor, he would probably be killed by the great emperor's power. So that's how it was. Lin Xian completely understood. In front of absolute power, any method was useless. Power, he wanted great power. Kid, it's useless. This sword knows a lot, but so what? To kill you, although I will take the risk, it's worth it. Also, do you think you can escape? As he spoke, he slapped the Rune Man in his hand again. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. With a cold shout, the great dragon sword spirit flew out and surrounded him. It formed a terrifying sword Dao domain. Boom boom! Dang! The Rune Man was torn into pieces. The undead spirit elder sneered. Kid, let's see how you'll die this time. His previous 2 attacks were effective. This time, his opponent would definitely be torn into pieces. He wanted to heavily injure him first, then bring him back to his family and torture him to death. He wanted to let him know the consequences of offending them and the undead spirit clan. A terrifying power covered the front. The elder sneered as he watched. But in the next moment, his pupils shrank and he exclaimed, "How is that possible?" You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.